Chapter 464. While looking at that great cauldron in the other space-time battlefield, the other side's undying existence shivered inwardly. If he was struck by that great cauldron or that lightning, he might immediately be blasted into ashes. However, that greenish-gold armored creature who was also on the battlefield was actually able to face it head-on. Even though he was injured, he was still unmatched. Hong Long Long. On the other space-time battlefield, that imposing figure moved on the cauldron, quickly chasing after him, exceeding time. Everything seemed to be spinning in reverse, terrifying to the extreme. At this moment, he really looked like a heavenly emperor descending into this world, long hair scattering down, divine might unmatched. The great cauldron covered the sun and moon, rising into the sky, releasing the might of lightning. The stalwart figure chased after the green-golden armored humanoid. Soon after, he punched out again, striking forward. "King, are you going to take action?" The other side's undying existence secretly transmitted sound to the war chariot. He sensed the threat of that imposing figure. The other party might very well be related to that drop of blood. "They don't belong to the same time as me. If I take action, the great river of time will erupt, the consequences unimaginable." These were Anlin's words, spoken only for that undying existence to hear. They were extremely quiet and calm, as if he was speaking about something unrelated to himself. "Even if I die, I am going to drag you into reincarnation with me." The greenish-gold armored humanoid creature suddenly stopped running, suddenly turning around, roaring towards that imposing figure. Immediately afterwards, a Hong-long noise sounded, heaven and earth splitting, ghosts weeping and deities howling. His greenish-gold armor burned, countless times more resplendent than the stars and moons of the heavens gathered together, condensing stellar force, carrying the highest natural laws, facing that imposing figure, his aura rising to the extreme. "Lin Bing Do Zhe Jie number group forward advance. 9 heavens lightning descend. Cauldron suppression." At this moment, the imposing figure standing on the cauldron spoke for the first time. Even though there was the great river of time separating them, countless cultivators could still clearly hear his voice, as if the source of this voice was right by their ears. These 3 sentences shook the heavens above and earth below, as if a heavenly emperor descended, incomparably dignified, issuing a decree, grand to the extreme. They only saw the 9 symbols turn into 9 spheres of light, carrying immortal, intimidating lightning, entering the all-life source cauldron. In the end, the great cauldron erupted with endless power, producing the highest secret method, instantly blasting through all obstructions. "Pooh!" That greenish-gold armored creature coughed out blood, staggering backwards. An imposing figure followed closely behind. His movements were grand and majestic. He grabbed his opponent, and then tore with force. With a chi-la noise, that creature was torn in half, its primordial spirit also like this. The opening of the cauldron shone, taking in and sending out stellar streams, collecting that creature's corpse and blood inside. Hiss! The battle in the other time-space ended. The 9 heavens, 10 earths, and the other side soldiers sucked in a cold breath of air, all of them trembling because of this. The great battle ended, but the 9 heavens, 10 earths, and foreign cultivators who were watching couldn't calm down for a long time. This scene was too shocking. Who was that stalwart man? Where did he come from? And what era was it? Was it the era before Immortal Ancient, or the era after? A rain of blood drifted down from the battlefield, and every single drop that descended could incinerate a great star and sever a river of stars. Its might was terrifying to the extreme. Fortunately, that was a different space-time and did not belong to this world, so it did not affect them. "Look, look! Has he noticed us?" At this time, the pupils of the foreign creatures contracted, all of them crying out in alarm. They looked towards heaven abyss in horror, their eyes not blinking. On the other time-space battlefield, one could only see that majestic great cauldron take in and send out divine splendor. All life source energy appeared, absorbing all of the enemy's blood essence. Then, that stalwart figure moved on the cauldron, slowly descending, as if he was going to land in heaven abyss. At this moment, heaven abyss scene was grand, as well as incomparable in this world. All life source energy engulfed heaven abyss. The stalwart man stepped on the cauldron, lightning irregular scenes behind him producing all things. He overlooked all living things, exceptional and unmatched. His body was tall and straight, head of black hair scattering down, pupils deep, heroic aura matchless, as if he ruled over the world. What is he trying to do? Stars swirled within the stalwart man's eyes, his gaze landing in the foreign side's direction. In that instant, the foreign army of millions and millions felt as if they were facing a great enemy. For them, this stalwart man was a variable. He suddenly arrived, making them feel restraining fear. After all, their king already broke through heaven abyss, about to wipe out the 9 heavens 10 earths. However, the other party just had to appear at this time, even intimidating their king's mount. At the very least, from the current situation, it would have been better if this stalwart man didn't appear. Did he come to help us? In Imperial Pass, the 9 heavens 10 earth soldiers stared blankly at that figure in heaven abyss whose back was towards them, their hearts trembling, hope surging within their eyes. Will he really help us deal with the foreign side? If he is willing to take action, he should be able to stop that foreign undying king, right? They don't belong to the same space-time. If they really clash, the results will be hard to predict. Imperial Pass supreme beings spoke one after another, muttering to themselves. Friend, the battle on your side has already ended, you should leave as well. In the foreign side, a calm voice sounded from the ancient war chariot, not carrying the slightest feeling of great changes, as if a young man in his golden years was speaking. The one who spoke was precisely the foreign undying king, Anlin. However, the stalwart figure didn't pay Anlin any attention, only giving the ancient war chariot an indifferent look, still descending. No one could see his true appearance clearly. There was all life source energy surging there, but they could sense that his outer appearance was also in his golden years, because there was a wave of vigorous life force. His eyes were just that deep, as if they were going to pierce through all worlds, peer into heaven's mysteries. Suddenly, the golden-backed barbaric bull pulling the ancient war chariot released a muffled thunderous noise again, as if it was currently enduring an unstoppable torment. As the stalwart man descended while stepping on the cauldron, all of its bones continuously released noises, as if they were going to explode. Kacha! Finally, its four-leg bones completely shattered. In the end, it crawled in the sky dome, shivering all over. He is provoking the king. The foreign side's millions and millions of cultivators were alarmed. This scene was too shocking. The golden-backed barbaric bull was an ancient beast that pulled an undying king's war chariot. Even if it was an undying existence, they still had to treat it with respect. However, this mysterious expert from who knew which era he came from, yet he displayed an unmatched aura without any misgivings, shattering its four-leg bones. Suppressing the mount of an undying king in front of his face. Just how domineering was this? From past until now, who dared provoke an undying king? This person from the other space-time dared. He was currently taking action. Do you all see? He seriously injured the foreign undying king's mount. He really is helping us. The 9 heavens 10 earths are saved. In Imperial Pass, countless cultivators were excited. They looked at the crawling golden-backed barbaric bull, clenching their fists, their hearts surging with emotions. From their appearances, it was as if they really wished that the stalwart figure in heaven abyss was themselves, kicking that Anlin's war chariot over. Friend, you have gone too far. Do you wish to interfere with this king's matters? You know that we cannot fight. If you really do that, this space-time, the world behind you, will all undergo great changes. Anlin's voice sounded from the war chariot again, still calm. What if this heavenly emperor insists on interfering? The stalwart man from the other space-time spoke, his words carrying a smile. Then we will fight! Anlin's voice became overcast, full of unmatched dignity. When Anlin's voice fell, a sky-shocking noise sounded. The ancient war chariot shone, chaotic energy surging. Then, the entire boundless desert was illuminated. Anlin appeared. Many people subconsciously closed their eyes. That place was too resplendent. A humanoid creature walked out of the war chariot, one hand behind his back, the other holding a golden ancient spear. That spear was too dazzling, golden radiance illuminating the past, present, and future, as if all ages returned to one, eternally present. In immortal ancient era, this spear pierced through the 10 vicious heavenly horned ants, piercing through immortal kings, divine might unmatched, shocking past and present. The foreign undying King Anlin appeared. His body carried brilliance, surrounding him, impossible to look directly at. It was extremely dazzling and dazzling, just like the golden ancient spear in his hands, full of brilliance. What a pity, we aren't in the same era, or else I would have killed you with a raise of my hand. In heaven abyss, the stalwart man who stood on the cauldron spoke, releasing a deep sigh, as if carrying a bit of helplessness. When these calm words sounded, they immediately shocked the 9 heavens, 10 earths, and the foreign realm. In Imperial Pass, countless cultivators were stirred up, looking at this stalwart man with great admiration. Just how domineering and brash was this? He was definitely a matchless immortal king. This person's disdainful words originated from his unmatched loftiness, making one feel reverence. In the foreign realm, the faces of millions and millions of creatures were ugly, simply not daring to believe what they were hearing. The other party was too arrogant, actually daring to speak such crazy words. You can come and give it a try. This king is unmatched in this world, why would I fear you? Anlin said with a faint smile, extremely arrogant. Could it be that the king really is going to fight against him? Someone who doesn't belong to this era is going to cross the great river of time to come here. The foreign cultivators looked at each other in dismay, their eyes filled with horror. However, right when everyone thought that the stalwart man from the other space-time was going to display an unmatched divine ability to fight against Anlin, he actually turned around, facing the 9 heavens, 10 earths. It was this drop of blood after all, it brought me here. Unfortunately, this is still not the era I wanted. The stalwart man gave that drop of blood a look, and then his eyes shifted slightly, landing on Chu Bei's body. Immediately afterwards, under the gazes of millions and millions of people in the foreign realm, the 9 heavens, 10 earths, he knelt down across space-time, across endless time. This action immediately shocked all of the soldiers in desolate border. Even that foreign undying king revealed a rare expression of shock, carrying shock, his face full of disbelief. As for the foreign undying beings, the instant that stalwart man knelt down in heaven abyss, their expressions already froze, to the extent where even their breathing stopped. Chapter 465. Master! In the other space-time, the imposing figure standing above the all-life source energy cauldron spoke, 2 calm syllables crossing the river of time, crossing endless time and space, drifting through heaven abyss, spreading to the 9 heavens, 10 earths, and the other side. This cry wasn't loud, but it clearly sounded in the depths of the minds of millions and millions of soldiers, shaking their souls. When this voice fell, the boundless desolate border entered a deathly silence. Regardless of whether it was the soldiers of the 9 heavens, 10 earths, or the creatures of the other side, they all seemed to have been struck by lightning. They stood in place, their expressions sluggish, their faces absent-minded. One by one, their eyes filled with astonishment landed on Chu Bei's body. In that instant, Chu Bei became the focal point of all of Desolate Border's cultivators, including the king of foreign lands, Anlin. How is this possible? Is what I saw real? That mysterious expert from the other space-time actually knelt down towards that mysterious true immortal. Did you all not hear how he addressed that mysterious true immortal? It's Master! What exactly is going on? If that expert from the other space-time is Senior Chu's disciple, then he should have also lived from the immortal ancient era until now. However, why would the other side's Anlin say that he doesn't belong to this era? Is he really Boss Chu's disciple? After a moment of silence, the cultivators of the 9 heavens, 10 earths recovered from their shock, all of them opening their mouths, faces full of disbelief as they stared at Chu Bei, paying attention to the other party's every move. Dao friend Chu, you still have this type of disciple? Meng Tianjing's throat squirmed. He had lived for millions of years, experienced all kinds of great storms, but right now, he couldn't maintain that type of extraordinary indifference, a look of shock on his face. He found it hard to imagine that an existence who could wipe out a stellar river with a raise of his hand, able to shatter a golden-backed barbaric bull with a strand of his might, daring to threaten to kill undying King Anlin, would actually call this Tao friend Chu before him his master. In his opinion, even though this boss Chu's strength was above his, he was still only at the true immortal realm, far from being comparable to an immortal king. However, that expert from the other space-time who had at least immortal king's strength knelt down before him. He really couldn't figure out what was going on with this scene in front of him. Which era did the immortal king expert come from? When did he become boss Chu's disciple? Did you hear that? The guy who dares to call himself king is actually that person's disciple. That person killed 5 of our supreme beings. Even Devil Pupil Sovereign died at his hands. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't even need king to make a move, we would have already taken down the 9 heavens 10 earths. Why is he the master of that person from another space-time? The foreign creatures also reacted one after another, clamoring noises sounding from all directions, intensely discussing Chu Bei, their faces all carrying strange expressions, carrying confusion. My king, what's going on? The foreign undying appeared behind Anlin, frowning slightly, a bit confused. Immortal light flowed in his eyes, piercing through heaven abyss and landing on Chu Bei. After entering the immortal realm, he had the heavenly eye, which could see through everything in the world. However, no matter how he sized up Chu Bei again, no matter how dazzling the immortal light in his eyes was, he still didn't discover any abnormalities. The other party had a mysterious force within his body, he couldn't see through it, unable to determine the power it contained. Previously, he still wanted to attack the other party from across Heaven Abyss, only, his attack was neutralized by Heaven Abyss. Now, he never expected that the terrifying expert from the other space-time who had immortal king's strength would actually kneel before the target he wanted to kill. This kneeling was too inconceivable, leaving him a bit stunned. There is a mysterious force on his body, but this king is sure that he indeed belongs to this era. Since we are from the same era, this king has never heard of him, then he is nothing more than an ant. The foreign Anlin gave Chu Bei an indifferent look, and then he gave this evaluation. If not for that imposing man from Heaven Abyss kneeling, he wouldn't even give Chu Bei a proper look. My king, then how could he be the master of that immortal king from the other space-time? The foreign undying continued to ask. However, this time, even Anlin shook his head, not giving an answer, as if not even he could figure it out. Father Great One. Yi Qingxian's body was a bit unstable. She looked at the man standing on the cauldron in Heaven Abyss, her expression stirred up, tears continuously flowing from her beautiful eyes. Senior brother. Sure Hao cried out, to the extent where he couldn't help but wave his fair and tender small hands, his excited eyes carrying blazing worship. Yi Qingxian and Sure Hao's cries immediately made the atmosphere that had originally calmed down a bit become tense again. Shua! There were countless pairs of eyes that simultaneously landed on Yi Qingxian and Sure Hao's bodies, their faces full of great shock. They never imagined that apart from Boss Chu having a relationship with that mysterious expert from the other space-time, he actually had this type of daughter. Little Yezi, your kneeling really does give your master a bit of pressure. Chu Bei nodded towards Yi Fan, reaching out a hand to point at his surroundings, the corners of his lips carrying a smile, his expression calm. Master, when will this disciple be like you, able to wander through the great river of time without any restrictions, descend to any era? In the other space-time in Heaven Abyss, Yi Fan got up, looking at Chu Bei with incomparable respect, releasing a sigh of admiration. That day won't be far. Chu Bei replied indifferently. Master, if it isn't convenient for you to take action, then let this disciple take action in your place. In Heaven Abyss, Yi Fan bowed towards Chu Bei again, and then he turned around, his eyes landing on the foreign undying King Anlin's body again. Do you really want to fight? Anlin was calm, one hand behind his back, the other holding the golden ancient spear, divine might matchless. He calmly stood there, brilliance swirling about, divine radiance endless, intimidating the heavens above and earth below. If you establish a blood oath to not approach Heaven Abyss for 1,000,000 years, This heavenly emperor can leave, Yi Fan said coldly. Hong Long. As Yi Fan's indifferent voice sounded, he struck out a giant palm imprint, reaching into heaven abyss from the other space-time, supporting that dim immortal city, sending it back into the black hole above heaven abyss. What qualifications do you have to make this king make a blood oath? With just you, it isn't enough. Anlin released a cold snort, his figure moving. With a step, he actually also appeared in heaven abyss. He faced Yi Fan head-on, but they were in different space-time. Since you persist in going about things the wrong way, then this heavenly emperor can only suppress and kill you. The great cauldron beneath Yi Fan's feet shook, all life source energy spreading from the cauldron opening, many stars slowly moving about. In heaven abyss, to be more precise, in that other space-time, giant stars moved about around Yi Fan's body one after another. The great cauldron beneath his feet surged with all life source energy, the stars of the heavens rising and falling. Behind him, a sea of lightning surged, 9 heavens lightning pervading the air. Black, purple, green, all types of lightning covered this place, to the extent where there were even some lightning that turned into the appearances of ancient divine beasts. With just a single look, one couldn't help but bow down in worship. Hong Long! A great noise sounded, crossing the great river of time, entering desolate border. Immediately afterwards, Yi Fan's body shone, becoming resplendent and dazzling. In that instant, the space around his body, time fragments surged, everything seemed to be spinning in reverse, terrifying to the extreme. In that instant, his divine might was matchless. He strode across the great river of time, about to cross space-time and arrive in this era. Just like that, he carried unmatched power as he pressed towards Anlin. Anlin didn't move at all, incomparably calm as he looked at the other space-time Yi Fan was in. He was an immortal king, an unmatched existence from immortal ancient era. He firmly believed that he was unmatched in this world, that regardless of past until now, no one could surpass him. He was arrogant, and also confident. It was because he had the capital, transcending above the mortal world. Even in the immortal Tao domain, he was still a king, the ruler of heaven and earth. Chi! The great cauldron flew towards Anlin. A wave of majestic aura seemed to have blasted through space-time barriers, blowing Anlin's hair into the air. When they saw Anlin's hair move, the foreign army of millions and millions immediately revealed looks of horror. What was this person doing? He was provoking their faith, challenging the highest existence in their hearts. Chang! Anlin brandished his spear, the golden spear stabbing forward, also blasting through space-time barriers, smashing into the cauldron just a hair away. Then, it slid past the cauldron, pointing at Yi Fan's chest. Are you really going to ignore the consequences? The spear in Anlin's hands still didn't strike the all-life source cauldron. He had misgivings. When his shout sounded, desolate border's atmosphere became even more tense, because a great battle that might affect the great river of time was about to erupt. What do you think? The space between Yi Fan's brows shone, thick blood energy rushing out from the top of his head, illuminating the heavens, making even the great river of time in that space-time tremble. Anlin's pupils contracted, his expression becoming serious. Could it be that this person really was going to take action? Back up! Anlin shouted, ordering the endless army of millions and millions of creatures in the endless desert, his expression serious. Once the two clashed, then there would be disastrous results. Perhaps nothing would exist anymore. When people of different space-time clashed, that would destroy the original world's trajectory. Hong Long! All life source energy flowed, the inside of the cauldron was like a cosmos, primal chaos surging, immortal energy roiling, releasing the most terrifying power. Yi Fan stood on the cauldron, his right arm moving. His fist shone, becoming more and more resplendent, slowly striking towards Anlin. Moo! In the endless desert, the golden-backed barbaric bull who had long fled far away was so scared its soul was leaving its body, shivering, speeding up its escape. At the same time, the foreign great army was in chaos, all of them backing up. Right now, Anlin also released the aura of an undying king, protecting the foreign creatures, as if he was worried that Yi Fan would suddenly act out. In heaven abyss, Yi Fan's fist smashed over from his own space-time, clearly about to pass through the space-time barrier. The golden war spear in Anlin's hands also rushed out, its target aimed straight at Yi Fan. The two individuals' attacks were both extremely slow, but the irregular scenes they produced truly shocked every single creature. Cracks appeared in heaven abyss, the 9 heavens 10 earths and the foreign realm sky dome began to produce fine cracks, extending into the distance. These two experts from different space-time didn't even truly fight, yet it already affected all living things in this world. Stop! Right when the atmosphere was tense, a faintly discernible vigorous voice resounded through desolate border. Then, another figure appeared in heaven abyss, standing at Anlin's side. The irregular scenes around him, including his aura, weren't weaker than Anlin's in the slightest. That's Shucho, immortal king! Another king! My heavens, who would have thought that I would be able to see two kings at the same time? Sure enough, existences like kings still can't fight through the great river of time? Even Shucho, immortal king, came out to stop them. The foreign realm's millions and millions of creatures looked at the figure that appeared in heaven abyss. They were first stunned, and then they knelt down piously, their faces similarly carrying respect. Is it another undying king? Is the foreign realms backing this terrifying? In our age where immortal kings have passed away, they actually still have undying kings overseeing them, moreover not just one. 2 undying kings! That stepping cauldron immortal king from a different space-time, can he really stop them? Shucho, immortal king's appearance made the expressions of the 9 heavens 10 earths cultivators change greatly, all of them carrying a bit of worry as they looked at Yi Fan. Meng Tianjing, immortal Wang, and the other supreme beings' expressions were also ugly to the extreme. In immortal ancient era, Shucho's reputation wasn't inferior to Anlin's in the slightest. Just like Anlin, Shucho's name was something that even in the 9 heavens 10 earths ancient texts, there were bloody historical records. In immortal ancient era, his name shook the world, establishing his reputation by stepping on the corpses of countless experts, shocking past and present, sweeping through the 9 heavens 10 earths. There were records that he had previously killed an immortal king from the 9 heavens 10 earths. Even though he joined hands with others in that battle, one could still see how terrifying his cultivation strength was. Chapter 466. Another one came? Forget about 2, even if there are more, this heavenly emperor still doesn't fear them. In the other space-time, Yi Fan stood on the cauldron, his eyes sweeping over Anlin and Shucho's bodies, possessing unmatched might. A battle that crosses the great river of time, do you want this world to collapse? Shucho released a cold snort. If you still don't leave, then don't blame the 2 of us for joining hands to wipe you out. When his ice-cold voice sounded, an explosive roar sounded in heaven abyss. This was Shucho's aura, endless killing intent erupting, exploding in heaven abyss, as if an unmatched monarch was roaring. It was to the extent where even the other space-time Yi Fan was in was affected, the universe exploding, the void releasing terrifying noises, as if malicious spirits were howling. Nothing more than an ant, it can be suppressed and killed. Yi Fan spoke these words, and then his hands held the great cauldron, smashing it towards Anlin and Shucho. Do you really think this king is scared? Then I'll just destroy 2 space-times. Anlin seemed to have been angered, no longer holding back. The golden ancient spear in his hand stabbed out, this time facing the all-life source cauldron. Dang! The long drawn-out sound of metal colliding echoed through the 2 space-time barriers. The great river of time in the space-time Yi Fan was in shook, the stars in the river breaking apart, actually starting to crack apart. 1-1. Under the rumbling sounds, the 9 heavens 10 earths, the heavens of the other side began to shatter, the originally small cracks directly becoming gaping holes, as if doomsday was descending. No, don't! Life force is flowing away! Save me! In that instant, cries of alarm sounded from desolate border. At this moment, regardless of whether it was the 9 heavens 10 earths or the creatures of the other side, their figures all became more and more blurry, as if they were going to disappear into thin air. Little Yi Fan, you should stop! Separated by the great river of time, you aren't suited for battle. If you continue messing around, the two space-times really are going to collapse. Right at this time, a deep sigh sounded through desolate border, seeping into heaven abyss. This was an exceptionally calm voice, extremely abruptly sounding in this desolate border that was about to collapse. It spread through the endless desert, the 9 heavens 10 earths, the other side, seeping into heaven abyss, and then into the other space-time. Hearing the voice, Yi Fan's body trembled and he immediately stopped. With a wave of his sleeve, the cauldron that was spewing out chi of all creation disappeared along with the floating stars. The 9 heavens lightning that was surging around the cauldron also returned to his body. On the other hand, Enlil also put away the golden ancient spear, retrieving the terrifying energy he sent into the other time-space. Following that, the two dimensions buzzed. The river of time in Yi Fan's space-time gradually calmed down, and the stars in the river stopped shattering. The 9 heavens 10 earths and the other side's heavens began to close up. The giant hole that originally seemed like doomsday began to shrink, becoming fine cracks, and then it was completely repaired. At the same time, the hundreds of millions of cultivators that had faded away solidified once more. I'm fine now. My life force is no longer flowing away. The billions of living beings seemed to have realized that the calamity had disappeared, and their faces were filled with joy. It was as if they had just walked through the gates of hell. After the excitement passed, the millions and millions of creatures thought of something, all of them simultaneously casting their eyes towards the source of that voice, Imperial Pass walls. In heaven abyss, Anlin and Shucho, the two great immortal kings' eyes similarly landed on Imperial Pass walls. As for Yi Fan, he bowed towards the city walls, his face full of respect. Little Yi Fan, if your master didn't say anything to stop you, were you really going to collapse the great river of time? On Imperial Pass walls, Chu Bei stood with his hands behind his back, calmly looking at Yi Fan. Yi Fan scratched his head in a bit of embarrassment. At this moment, he was no longer that unmatched heavenly Emperor Yi, but rather more like a child who made a mistake. Master, this disciple's original intention was just to scare the two of them, to force them to establish a blood oath. Who would have expected that they would rather collapse the great river of time than establish a vow? Forget it, just leave the rest to your master. You just need to stay on the other side and watch. Chu Bei said indifferently. Master, wasn't your cultivation restricted? Yi Fan asked. Do you feel like your master can still just watch from the side? Could it be that I really have to watch as you two collapse the great river of time, collapse the two sides of space-time? Chu Bei looked at Yi Fan and said, Your master used a secret method, transferring over a bit of power. Even though my cultivation is still less than 1/10 of my peak, it is enough to deal with these two brats. When his voice that carried a smile sounded, Chu Bei on the city walls took a step out. In the blink of an eye, Chu Bei already arrived in heaven abyss. In that instant, his body shone, a giant axe wrapped in primal chaos appeared behind him. There were dozens to over 100 strange patterns engraved on the axe's handle. These patterns were the same in thickness, but the colors and shapes were all different, each having their own characteristics. The giant axe trembled lightly, releasing wing sounds. Several thousand colors of different shades rippled out from above, from time to time changing into all types of shapes. An extremely dense wave of refreshing energy that made one feel relaxed and happy spread out from the axe blade, rippling through the desolate border battlefield. It produced a mysterious scene that left one astonished. The patterns on the axe's handle flickered. If one looked carefully, every single one of them contained endless stars, as if they formed a star domain of their own. This was the heaven-splitting axe, the genuine heaven-splitting axe. Apart from the heaven-splitting axe, beneath Chu Bei's feet, a giant Taiji diagram appeared, all types of immortal Tao symbols flickering about. At the center of the Taiji diagram was a blooming immortal Tao flower. Grand mist energy and all life source energy were incomparably condensed, about to turn into liquid. A golden disk rested above Chu Bei's head, the center of the disk surging with blue-green radiance. Within the radiance, one could vaguely see the worshipping scene of millions and millions of creatures from different worlds, their faces full of piety. The blue-green radiance came from their worship, unmatched faith force. Don't you all feel like the feeling this true immortal senior gives off seems to have changed? I also feel it, but I can't say what exactly changed. What did his previous words mean? He doesn't want his powerful disciple to take action, leaving the rest to him? Even though he is extremely strong, he is still a true immortal in the end. Right now, the ones he is facing are two undying kings from the other side. Can he really do it? No, since he is the master of an immortal king from a different space-time, how can he only be a true immortal? The nine heavens tenorous cultivators snapped back to reality, their eyes locking onto Chu Bei's body. At the same time, their eyes carried bewilderment and worry. I actually can't sense his aura fluctuations anymore. While looking at Chu Bei's rear figure, Meng Tianjing muttered to himself, a bit absent-minded. It wasn't just him, Immortal Wang, Zhao Haotian, and the other supreme beings also revealed bewildered expressions. Previously, they could still sense Boss Chu's energy fluctuations. However, in that instant just now, the other party's aura fluctuations disappeared. So this is Great Ancestor? Yi Qingxian pulled Shi Hao's small white hand, muttering to herself, eyes carrying strong expectation. Chu Bei took a step out, directly leaving Imperial Pass just like that, arriving in Heaven Abyss. Regardless of whether it was the nine heavens tenorous cultivators or the foreign creatures, their eyes all focused on Chu Bei's body. At the same time, their faces were full of shock. In their eyes, Chu Bei seemed to have become even more ordinary. If he was placed in a great army, he might even be a small figure that couldn't be found. However, right now, the other party appeared in Heaven Abyss, looking at undying King Anlin and Shichuo, yet he didn't give off that type of strange feeling, as if they were standing at the same height to begin with. However, if one looked at him for a long time, they would discover that this Boss Chu's aura was incomparably fierce, his pupils piercing, releasing light like immortal swords, making it impossible for one to look at him directly. The symbols on the surface of his body swirled about, as if they were going to crush the world. Master! In a different time-space, Yi Fan walked on a cauldron, standing at the limits of the great river of time, cupping his fists towards Chu Bei. You've changed. Anlin gave Chu Bei a look, his expression serious, eyes releasing divine radiance. He spoke indifferently, giving this evaluation. Immortal King, Undying King, do you all feel like this is the end of cultivation? Chu Bei's voice was calm. Regardless of whether it is the past or the future, I, Anlin, am unmatched in this world. Anlin spoke, releasing unmatched might. Unmatched? If there really is an unmatched being, then how could there be an age of emperor collapse? From past until now, who dared say they were undefeated? Just how much do you understand about this world? Perhaps only when this one was at his peak would he dare declare himself undefeated. Even if it was this one at that time, he still needed to temper his unmatched body. Chu Bei stood with his hands behind his back, his words carrying a type of fierceness, as well as a type of great changes. It was as if a monarch walked over from the distant past, witnessing the vicissitudes of life after reviving, questioning the heavens. What do you all amount to? In the end, Chu Bei indifferently gave Anlin and Shichuo a look, releasing a cold snort, his voice carrying disdain. Arrogant! Who do you think you are? Anlin's eyes were cold and deep. I will suppress you with a raise of my hand. Chu Bei spoke word for word. A sonorous voice sounded from Heaven Abyss, resounding through the endless desert. Suppress Anlin. These words were spoken lightly from Chu Bei's mouth. The cultivators of the nine heavens ten earths in front of Imperial Pass first became quiet, dead silent. Then, their blood surged, expressions stirred up. On the other hand, the endless creatures of the other side also had expressions of anger. Someone who had just stepped into the immortal Dao domain not long ago actually said that he could suppress Anlin with a raise of his hand? These were undying kings, the highest level existences, their faith. Who dared look down on them? They touched upon the taboo, they had to be killed. Those who offend our king, die! Before Anlin could reply, the foreign undying was the first to release a cold shout. Great Tao immortal light surged around his body, symbols flickering about. His palm slapped out, directly pointing at Chu Bei. Great stars swirled about in his palm, irregular scenes appearing one after another. If not for Heaven Abyss stopping him before, he would have already attacked the other party. How could he allow the other party to act like this, offend an undying king like this? This really was daring to the extreme. The other party's arrogance should be skinned alive, his bones pulled out, his soul suppressed into the eye of the sea of bitterness. Even though he also sensed Chu Bei's changes, in his opinion, the other party definitely didn't reach the king level. Chu Bei swept his eyes over the foreign undying. He shook his head, releasing a type of aura that devoured mountains and rivers, as if he was the sole sovereign of the heavens above and earth below. If he didn't do it, who else could? His head of black hair fluttered about, divine eyes like lightning, so dazzling that it was hard to look him in the eyes, making one tremble in fear. Hong Long! The stellar domain in Chu Bei's eyes swirled in reverse, his eyes narrowing. In that instant, it was as if the heavens collapsed and earth split apart, the skies splitting apart, the great desert caving in. That gaze was even more terrifying than the great void crack. Chi! Anlin took action, the golden ancient spear lightly moving, separating the sky, wishing to stop this beam of light, but it was too late. Ah! This beam of light landed on the foreign undying's body, the giant palm he slapped out disappearing without a trace before entering Heaven Abyss. As for his body, it was instantly cut in half, the scene extremely terrifying. As soon as a miserable scream sounded from his mouth, the two halves of his body and primordial spirit turned into a blast of bloody mist. Immortal light scattered. The foreign undying died. Undying Great One died! This is definitely impossible. That is but an unmatched existence who stepped into the immortal Tao domain. It was actually, how could he be killed so easily? It was just a beam of light, could it be that he also stepped into the king realm? While looking at the bloody mist that scattered in the sky dome above, the bodies of millions and millions of foreign creatures suddenly trembled. Their eyes all returned to Chu Bei's body, full of alarm and fear. They didn't dare imagine that an undying being would actually be killed by a beam of light. This was just too terrifying. When they looked at the soldiers of the 9 heavens 10 earths, their expressions were the exact opposite. After being stunned for a moment, they reacted, starting to cheer loudly, their expressions stirred up. The mysterious senior who stood on their side was actually already powerful to the point where a strand of light could kill a foreign undying being. The foreign undying being, this was an unmatched existence equivalent to a true immortal, an undying being who had lived from immortal ancient until now. In the annals of history, he had a brilliant reputation. Is this Boss Chu's true strength? Or perhaps this is just a corner of his strength. The path of cultivation, just what kind of cultivation realm is at the end? Tao Tai King, Old Celestial, Immortal Palace Master, and the other self-release realm cultivators looked at each other in dismay. Along the way, the shock this Boss Chu brought them really was too great. Meng Tianjing, Immortal Wang, Zhao Haotian, and the other supreme beings stared blankly at that figure in Heaven Abyss, their expressions a bit absent-minded. This was especially the case with the latter two, their expressions even more so full of strangeness. Not long ago, they actually fought against the other party, to the extent where they even spoke vicious words. Now, it seemed like that was just a joke. Chapter 467. Are you not attaching any importance to this king? Anlin spoke up, his tone calm. Even now, even when he saw the foreign undying being killed, he didn't show the slightest bit of emotion. You do not have the qualifications. When the calm voice sounded, Chu Bei raised a single hand. The heaven-opening axe behind him shook, thick divine radiance rushing into the heavens from the axe blade, as if a volcano erupted with magma, illuminating Heaven Abyss, the power shaking up the 9 heavens 10 earths and the foreign realm. Hong Long! A sky-shocking noise sounded. The endless patterns on the axe handle released radiance at the same time, the universe trembling. The endless radiance merged with the grand mist energy and all life source energy below his feet, turning into a blade radiance, a Tao-severing blade. Chi! That blade hacked through heaven abyss natural laws, splitting apart the great Tao patterns, hacking outwards, tearing through all obstructions. Kill! At the same time, an explosive roar sounded from the other side of heaven abyss. This was Anlin's shout. He erupted with endless killing intent, erupting with noise vaguely like the roar of an unmatched monarch. Heaven abyss was blasted apart, the void releasing terrifying noises, as if malicious spirits were howling. Anlin gripped the spear with both hands, fiercely facing that blade. King, he is actually holding the spear with both hands. The foreign realms creatures looked at heaven abyss, especially the older supreme beings, their faces immediately revealing expressions of shock. Is that person from the 9 heavens 10 earths really already strong to this degree? Just what kind of background does he have? Why are there no records related to him in the ancient texts? The last time King held the spear with both hands was in immortal ancient era. At that time, his opponent was an immortal king. When they saw the battle in heaven abyss, the foreign realms creatures were shocked, looking at heaven abyss in disbelief. Anlin was an undying king, the faith of millions and millions of foreign creatures, yet now, he was forced to hold the spear with both hands. Ever since the battle of Immortal Ancient, when had Anlin ever been this serious? Before, even when the scarlet-eyed elder who was number 1 under Immortal Kings pressed down with an immortal city, his expression didn't change at all. However now, his face was grave and stern. It was clear that Anlin attached great importance to that person from the 9 heavens 10 earths. This was a true great confrontation. Unprecedented and unmatched. Dang! Metal trembling noises, blade and spear colliding. At the point of collision, white ripples spread out in heaven abyss. Resplendent light dazzled, erupting with ocean-like energy fluctuations. The interweaving divine radiance even drowned heaven abyss all of a sudden, terrifying to the extreme, making one's soul tremble. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Heaven abyss shook violently. This abyss that had existed since the age of Emperor collapsed seemed like it was about to collapse. Fortunately, just as it was on the verge of collapse, black blood flowed out of the black hole above. This blood came from an unknown place and flowed along the periphery of heaven abyss, as if strengthening it once again. However, despite this being the case, the power of Chu Bei and Anlin's collision still had wisps of aura that penetrated heaven abyss, spreading outwards. In an instant, the boundless army of a myriad of living beings in the boundless desert fell weakly to the ground with a thump, and they trembled with fear. They were restrained by the supreme pressure, and they were simply on the verge of exploding. Even peak 9 heavens supremes like Meng Tianjing and Wang Changxing were suppressed, unable to use their god force. This was still the result of heaven abyss being strengthened by that mysterious black blood. Otherwise, just the shockwaves from the collision of the 2 great immortal king experts were enough to destroy all of the cultivators in the boundless desert. Inside heaven abyss, Shichuo immortal king released a decree towards the foreign heavens. The decree scattered down endless rain of light, as if it was protecting the foreign great army. The other space-time Yifan stood on the all-life source energy cauldron, displaying unmatched divine abilities through the great river of time, also producing a barrier of energy light above the 9 heavens 10 earths. Dang! Inside heaven abyss, the sound of metal colliding lingered in spirals. The unmatched immortal Tao aura of the confrontation of 2 powerful individuals covered heaven and earth. When the immortal radiance at the point of collision completely scattered, the 9 heavens 10 earths and the foreign cultivators all woke up from their shivering. How is this possible? My eyes must be playing tricks on me. The eyes of millions and millions of creatures were focused on the battlefield. When they saw the scene clearly, they were first stunned, and then their pupils suddenly contracted. This was especially the case for the foreign creatures, their faces even more so filled with disbelief, carrying alarm and fear. On the battlefield, that golden ancient spear wrapped in immortal radiance actually had a gap appear on one side of the spearhead. There was even a fine crack that extended into the distance by the edges of the gap. Undying King Anlin's Tao-proving weapon was actually damaged. It broke in the previous collision. In Immortal Ancient Great Era, this spear pierced through one of the vicious Ten's heavenly horned ants, killing countless half-immortal kings. Even in an intense battle against an immortal king, it still released unmatched immortal might, not suffering any damage. However, right now, it was precisely this type of unmatched immortal weapon that soldered its way through Immortal Ancient Great Era that had a gap produced from the collision just now. Just how terrifying of a thing was this? The foreign creatures were stupefied, inwardly shocked to the extreme. Every single one of them widened their eyes, finding it hard to accept the fact that the golden ancient spear was damaged. It wasn't just these foreign creatures, even the immortal King Shuchuo's eyes flashed with a bit of shock. Even though the 9 heavens 10 earths immortal king's Tao-severing blade already disappeared, turning into a rain of light, that wasn't a real thing in the end, but rather the giant axe behind him. This terrifying blade could still be regenerated. In reality, this really was the case. The heaven-splitting axe behind Chu Bei trembled, a Tao-severing blade that was exactly the same as before appearing, its aura even becoming more and more terrifying. Anlin's weapon was damaged. In the exchange just now, Senior Chu seized the advantage. It seems like Senior Chu really has the strength to fight against Anlin. In front of Imperial Pass, the 9 heavens 10 earth soldiers were in a celebratory mood, their cries of alarm carrying excitement. In Heaven Abyss battlefield, Anlin was expressionless. Even though his Tao weapon was damaged, there was still no anger on his face, instead becoming more and more calm. His eyes were deep like a sea as he stared at Chu Bei, as if he wanted to see through his soul. "Where exactly did you come from?" Shuchuo asked from the side. He was surrounded by divine radiance, incomparably hazy, intimidating all creatures of this world. He was confused. Why did this person of unknown origins instantly possess such strength, directly entering the immortal king realm from the true immortal realm? "Kill him, carefully study him, and you will naturally understand." Anlin spoke again. At this time, the golden spear in his hand already recovered on its own, golden light flowing, extracting essence gold energy from Heaven Abyss. This was a supreme divine ability. It reforged the spear, becoming even more resplendent, golden light covering the sky, dazzling to the extreme. An exceptional immortal king weapon, unmatched in this world. "Study this great one?" Chu Bei laughed, his eyes swirling, stellar streams flowing within. In the next moment, a fierce aura erupted from his body, as if an unmatched immortal sword was unsheathed, oppressing one's soul. A beam of light shot out from his eyes, as if all creatures of this world ascended to immortality, a boundless rain of light condensing into an arrow, crushing the heavens as it shot towards Anlin. This was merely the light in his eyes, shocking to the extreme. Anlin's expression didn't change, his expression becoming increasingly cold, his eyes like a deep starry sky, within them the scene of the heavens being destroyed, but also the grand scene of all things reviving. He fiercely shook the golden ancient spear, facing that arrow. Hong Long! The arrow turned into a rain of light, dissipating. Anlin held the golden ancient spear, taking half a step back. "There is always a heaven beyond the heavens, a person beyond a person. Even if you become an immortal emperor, you still need to know that there is still a heaven above the heavens." Chu Bei's words were spoken under his fierce aura, pressuring one's primordial spirit. He was arrogant and aloof, as if he was facing an ordinary creature, casually speaking. At this moment, Chu Bei's aura seemed to have changed once again. The immortal radiance around his body not only illuminated Heaven Abyss, it even illuminated the 9 heavens 10 earths and the heavens of the other side, erupting with an exceptional aura, possessing a great power that was unmatched since the ancient times. He floated in the void of Heaven Abyss, not moving. However, above his head, 9 little figures appeared, as if he had 9 primordial spirits. In the hands of these 9 little figures, there was a golden disc, a small heaven-splitting axe floating at the center of each disc. "Deliberately mystifying things." Anlin frowned, berating, his expression becoming increasingly cold. His eyes were like deep starry skies, within them were scenes of the heavens being destroyed, but also scenes of all things reviving. This time, he still held the golden ancient spear with both hands, but this time, he changed his brandishing motion, as if he had merged with heaven abyss. He fiercely struck out with the golden spear, brandishing it towards Chu Bei. Rumble! Under the gazes of millions of soldiers, Anlin stabbed the golden ancient spear towards Chu Bei in the heaven abyss battlefield, the power stronger than the previous 2 times. As for Chu Bei, he still didn't dodge, but the 9 little figures above his head quickly merged together, becoming one little figure, the surface of its body releasing 9 types of radiance. In the rumbling sound, that little figure replaced Chu Bei to face Anlin. Boom! The palm-sized 9-colored little figure brandished the heaven-splitting axe, heaven abyss rumbling. Dang! Although the axe was small, its surface derived the terrifying power of 9 different laws. The power of fire, the power of wood, the power of metal, the power of lightning, the power of water, the power of earth. 9 different powers intertwined and blocked the tip of the ancient golden spear. Meanwhile, the 9-colored little figure continued to hack down with the axe in its hand, divine and invincible. The power of the axe, 9 types of primitive laws interweaved, accompanied by primal chaos, thousands of avatars alternating, having the power to split heaven and earth apart. No matter who you are, I, Anlin, am not afraid. Only I, Anlin, am supreme in this world. Anlin roared, his body covered in symbols, erupting with power that suppressed heaven and earth, fully releasing the matchless divine might of an immortal king, blocking that 9-colored little figure. Ignorant child! That palm-sized 9-colored little figure actually responded to Anlin. As the disdainful voice fell, the 9-colored little figure waved its right hand, and with a rumble, the golden disc that was originally behind Chu Bei actually rapidly shrank, in the end flying into its hand, as if it had transformed into a weapon that could rival the heaven-splitting axe, surging with chaotic mist, flickering with brilliance. Rumble! The sound of the great Tao filled the air, and avatars appeared above the 9-colored little figure's head. At this moment, the 9-colored little figure held the heaven-splitting axe in one hand and the golden disc in the other. Although they were both very charming, they each released a supreme aura that could swallow the world. Looking down on the long river of history, wanting to ask the world, who could compete with it? Suppress! 2 light syllables came out of the 9-colored little figure's mouth. In an instant, the Taiji diagram under Chu Bei's feet spun, primordial energy and all things source energy turned into a surging river, surging like the Milky Way of the 9 heavens, converging on the 9-colored little figure's heaven-splitting axe and golden disc. Whoosh! The 9-colored little figure used the 2 divine weapons as weapons to whip Anlin at the same time. In an instant, heaven abyss shook, the black blood seeping out of the black hole madly burning, as if blocking the power released by the heaven-splitting axe and golden disc. In the end, countless black blood flowed out of the black hole, barely stabilizing heaven abyss that was about to collapse. At this moment, Anlin's expression changed greatly, his pupils constricting. Not only him, but Shuchuo, who was watching from the side, also had a change in expression, a hint of seriousness between his brows. Pun! The 9-colored little figure held the heaven-splitting axe, tearing through all illusions, directly hacking down on Anlin's body. A low rumbling noise sounded. Anlin was sent flying, his body continuously backing up. During this process, it wasn't that Anlin didn't put up any defenses, but rather that the defensive light he produced was almost instantly destroyed by the heaven-splitting axe. Impossible! How could great ancestor Anlin be defeated? While looking at Anlin, who was sent flying, in the other side's direction, millions and millions of creatures were shaken, great waves surging in their minds, every single one of their spines going cold. The undying king who had never tasted defeat since immortal ancient great era, the high and mighty ruler of the world, the faith of all clans, was actually sent flying by a little figure just now. It wasn't just the foreign creatures, the 9 heavens 10 earth soldiers were also stunned. They were confused. What was going on with that 9-colored little figure? It could actually force back an undying king. However, they were only confused for an instant, and then they began to shout excitedly. They couldn't understand the process, so they could only look at the result. At the very least, from what they could see, that boss Chu who stood on their side seized the advantage. On Imperial Pass walls, Yi Qingxian looked at Chu Bei with an expression of worship. This was precisely her great ancestor, an unmatched existence who could break through the natural laws of time, wander through different eras as he pleased. No one knew his origins, no one knowing his peak strength. However, despite this being the case, under the other party's cultivation suppression, he still forced back an undying king without using his true body. As for Shi Hao, his eyes long released golden light, his eyes completely filled with Chu Bei's figure. In the other time-space, Yi Fan's expression was serious, as if he was observing Chu Bei's Tao, his brows relaxing from time to time, furrowing from time to time. Then, he revealed an expression of sudden enlightenment, as if he was comprehending the Tao, learning. Shuchuo's body suddenly trembled, his eyes revealing an expression of horror. If others could see his expression, they would discover that it was extremely strange, carrying astonishment and shock. How could it be like this? Is this little fella a primordial spirit? Why does he have such a powerful primordial spirit? Anlin stabilized his body, muttering to himself. Two questions immediately popped up. However, before Chu Bei could dispel his doubts, that nine-colored little figure already appeared in front of him again, the heaven-opening axe in its hands just like before, hacking towards him. Apart from the heaven-opening axe, there was also a golden disc that similarly carried unmatched divine might, also smashing towards him. I, Anlin, am unmatched in this world. Throughout all of history, no one can suppress me. Anlin roared out, the heavens collapsing. With a wave of his hand, he recalled the golden ancient spear that was tangled with the power of 5 great natural laws. Chapter 468. Dong. In Heaven Abyss Battlefield, the heaven-opening axe was the first to hack down, striking Anlin's golden ancient spear, instantly sending the latter's spearhead in another direction. When he saw this, Anlin's body trembled, staggering backwards. However, before he could withdraw that far, the 9-colored little figure followed like a shadow, the golden disc in its hands striking his body again. This time, the power was even more ferocious. The golden disc released sinister radiance, the tens of thousands of irregular scene void images covering heaven and earth, pouring into Anlin's body. Then, with a pung noise, it exploded together with Anlin. Why is it like this? Great ancestor Anlin was actually blasted apart. Didn't the 9 heavens 10 earths immortal kings all die in immortal ancient? Why is there still someone who can injure our king? While looking at the flesh and blood in Heaven Abyss, the endless foreign creatures were simply about to go crazy. Their faith was actually directly blasted apart by a little figure. Even though this flesh and blood quickly reassembled into Anlin's appearance, the scene from before really did happen. Ah! Anlin seemed to have been completely angered, his hair flying upwards, veins popping on his face, his roar full of strong killing intent. Pointless struggle. That 9-colored little figure didn't seem to fear the crazed Anlin at all, striking over with the heaven-opening axe and golden disc again. Anlin shouted, using the golden ancient spear to block. However, a similar scene happened again. No matter how he operated the immortal Tao force within his body, he still couldn't change the outcome of the ancient spear being sent flying. In the end, he could only watch as the heaven-opening axe and golden disc alternately struck over. Pun! Anlin flew out, his body exploding again, and then reassembling. Who exactly are you? Anlin roared out. He was an immortal king, someone who could overlook endless time, overlook all under the sky, yet now, he encountered great trouble. This 9-colored little figure's attack contained great Tao force, forcefully suppressing him, making it extremely strenuous for him to fight back. This type of feeling of helplessness was something he had never felt even during Immortal Ancient's great battle. At this moment, regardless of whether it was the 9 heavens 10 earths or the foreign realm, it was completely silent, an expanse of deathly stillness. All of the creatures and cultivators were shocked, looking at heaven abyss in a daze, not saying a word, only horror remaining on their faces. Even those at the peak of supreme being level like Meng Tianjing and Immortal Wang were stupefied, their mouths wide open in shock, unable to close. In heaven abyss, the foreign undying King Anlin was struck by that nine-colored little figure, his body exploding, reforming, and then exploding again and again, this cycle repeating itself. In that instant, the only things left in desolate border were the rhythmic muffled explosions from heaven abyss, as well as Anlin's angry roars of unwillingness. I, Anlan, am immortal. You can't kill me! Anlan's body reformed, glaring at Chu Bei in the distance. A law decree appeared in his hand. He spat out a mouthful of blood on the law decree, and the law decree burned with blue flames. Rumble, suddenly, a pitch-black gap appeared above heaven abyss. The gap was accompanied by lightning. Then, under everyone's gaze, a pure black shield tablet appeared. That's the Blackstone Immortal King's shield tablet! There were foreign supreme beings who recognized that pure black shield monument, unable to help but cry out in alarm. Has he really already been forced to this extent? Shuchu Immortal King gave the nine-colored little figure a look, and then his eyes landed on Anlin's body, muttering to himself. Blackstone Immortal King was just like them, previously also one of the foreign unmatched Immortal Kings. However, he died in Immortal Ancient's great battle. Before his death, he entrusted his Tao verification artifact to Anlin. In terms of defensive power, this Blackstone Shield tablet was fully deserving of being number one among Immortal King artifacts. However, because Anlin was prideful enough, even in Immortal Ancient's battle, he never used this shield tablet. But now, he had summoned the shield steel. It was clear that when facing this nine-colored little figure, he already reached a point where he was at his wit's end. Dang! The nine-colored little figure lashed out again. Anlin didn't hesitate to hold a shield in one hand and a spear in the other, blocking it at the same time. This time, Anlin only backed up, his body not exploding. Dang, dang, dang! The nine-colored little figure pressed forward, one hand holding the heaven-splitting axe, the other holding the golden disc, continuously striking out several times. However, because of the Blackstone Shield tablet's defense, it was difficult for him to blast Anlin apart again. Our king has received it! With Blackstone Immortal King's Shield tablet, Ancestor Anlin can forcibly resist that little figure's attacks. The situation in the Heaven Abyss battlefield took a turn for the better, the gloominess on the faces of the foreign creatures swept away. However, just as the corners of their mouths rose, the situation changed again. The mysterious person who was originally standing in the distance suddenly disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already close to the nine-colored little figure. Boom! The nine-colored little figure and Chu Bei released nine-colored light at the same time. Then, under everyone's gazes, the nine-colored little figure entered Chu Bei's forehead. Returning, fusing together. In an instant, Chu Bei's aura rose, possessing an unrivaled aura of supremacy in the universe. Chu Bei personally brandished his axe, simple and direct. With a swing of the axe, many great stars moved, carrying a majestic pressure, suppressing Anlin. Kill! Anlin's expression was serious. As he shouted, he first used the Blackstone Shield tablet to block, and then stabbed out with the golden ancient spear, aiming directly at Chu Bei's chest. Kacha! Chu Bei's axe hacked down on the Blackstone Shield tablet. At first, it was a deadlock for about 3 seconds. Then, in the dead silence, a crisp shattering sound suddenly rang out. In the next moment, the shield tablet exploded, and the heaven-splitting axe in Chu Bei's hand continued to move forward, chopping down on Anlin's chest. Poochie! This axe split open Anlin's chest, bringing with it golden blood. Ah! Unlike before when his body exploded, Anlin actually let out a painful roar at this moment. The roar was filled with killing intent, as if he was suffering an indescribable pain. This was inconceivable. A king who stood at the peak of the immortal Tao actually let out a painful scream. It was unbelievable. Amidst the roar, Anlin swept the spear horizontally, immediately pulling away from Chu Bei. Looking at his chest that had been split open, Anlin tried to use his immortal power to repair it. However, what made his heart palpitate was that the other party's immortal power was preventing him from repairing the wound. The black stone shield tablet actually shattered. That is but the world's most powerful defensive artifact, yet it was actually directly hacked apart by that fella's axe. Could it be that he really has already surpassed old ancestor Anlin? If this really is the case, who else in this world can be his opponent? While looking at the floating rubble in Heaven Abyss, the endless foreign creatures were endlessly alarmed, their eyes full of fear. Hong Long! Heaven Abyss shook intensely. Chu Bei brandished the heaven-splitting axe again, hacking down on Anlin, domineering to the extreme. With a raise of his hand, it was as if he was the ruler of immortal domain, casually suppressing his subjects, no one able to resist him. When one looked over, Chu Bei's body seemed to have become one with the radiance released by the heaven-splitting axe. When the axe hacked down, it was majestic, locking Anlin in place, binding him. This second axe hacked down on Anlin's shoulder, immediately severing his right arm. The third hacked down on Anlin's head, blasting half of his head into mincemeat. Chu Bei hacked down again and again. Anlin screamed miserably, the areas that were shattered unable to heal. This was the first time in several hundred years that he felt fear, as if he sensed the arrival of death. Ah! Blood sacrifice! Finally, when Chu Bei's 10th fist descended, Anlin seemed to have made some type of decision, an unwilling great roar resounding through the heavens. Then, only to see his flesh that was blasted apart by Chu Bei completely ignite, and then struggle free from Chu Bei's binding power, recombining once more. Shuchuo, could it be that you're just going to watch from the side like this? If I am killed, do you think he will let you go? Anlin's entire body was covered in origin essence blood, wrapped within raging white flames. He was squeezing out his life force. Even if he won this battle, he would sleep for at least 1,000,000 years. When he heard Anlin's words, Shuchuo gave the other spacetime Yifan a look, the spear in his hands trembling. Ever since he sensed that Anlin was at a disadvantage, he wanted to take action, but that fella's aura was always locked onto him. As long as he took action, the other party would definitely take action as well. This was why he was always watching from the side. But now, with the current situation, he had no choice but to help Anlin. Otherwise, Anlin might really die in this heaven abyss. Master, this time, let disciple fight alongside you. In the other space-time, above the long river of time, Yifan stood on the myriad chi cauldron, the 9 heavens lightning surging behind him, looking ready to take action. Little Yezi, do you not believe in Master's strength? Chu Bei looked at Yifan with a smile. Are you worried that Master will be at a disadvantage under their combined strength? Even if the two of them attack together, what does Master have to fear? As for you, you should continue to stay there and watch. As his smiling voice fell, Chu Bei's body suddenly swayed, erupting with 9 colors, and then his body split into 9. In the next instant, 9 identical Chu Bei surrounded Anlin and Shuchuo in a ring shape. 5 identical but different Chu seniors. As expected, what we saw at the beginning was not an illusion. He can really split into 9 people. All of the creatures in Desolate Border stared at Heaven Abyss with stupefied expressions. They were a bit stunned. How did this boss Chu suddenly become 9? Moreover, the auras they gave off were all different. In Heaven Abyss, the 9 figures stood in different directions, surrounding Anlin and Shuchuo in a ring shape. Hong Long! The 9 Chu Bei moved at the same time, making the same movements, one hand holding the heaven-splitting axe, the other holding the golden disc, lashing out from different directions. As the 9 figures moved, Heaven Abyss swayed and trembled as a result. Kill! Anlin and Shuchuo exchanged a look, their expression serious, releasing their most powerful attacks at the same time. Anlin swept out with the golden ancient spear, Shuchuo stabbed forward, releasing the most dazzling radiance. Regardless of whether it was Anlin or Shuchuo, they were both extremely strong, peak experts, overlooking endless time, looking down on the world. However, the instant they exchanged blows with the 5 Chu Bei, their expressions changed at the same time, becoming even more serious and overcast. These 9 Chu Bei, even though their auras were different, none of them were weaker than them, to the extent where they were even above them. As soon as the battle began, Anlin and Shuchuo were already suppressed by the 9 Chu Bei, continuously forced back. Chapter 469. Great Ancestor Anlin and Great Ancestor Shuchuo still lost even after working together. Not even 2 great ancestors working together can win? When they saw the situation in Heaven Abyss battlefield, the pupils of millions and millions of foreign creatures contracted, carrying fear within their shock. In Heaven Abyss, the 9 figures worked together. Regardless of whether it was the frequency or power of their attacks, they were completely the same. Pun! Anlin was attacked from all sides by 4 figures. Even though his entire body's essence blood burned, he was still in a dangerous situation. He flew out, his arms exploding. Shuchuo was attacked from all sides by 5 figures. One of them focused on the spear in his hands, while the other 4 attacked from the sides, smashing into his shoulders and back, making him stagger about. A moment later, a wisp of dark red color appeared at the corners of his lips. The fierce attacks of experts at the same level were something not even he could endure. This was a battle between immortal Dao domain kings. It was already a world-shaking struggle from the very start. In that instant, blood radiance splashed out. Are these Senior Chu's methods? Terrifyingly powerful! In the 9 heavens 10 earths, countless cultivators cried out in alarm, their faces carrying excitement. The unmatched Anlin and Shuchuo were forcibly suppressed by someone today, their undefeated legend shattered. The foreign creatures trembled, their eyes carrying worry. Hong Long! In Heaven Abyss, the 9 Chu Bei slaughtered their way forward together, unstoppable. Anlin and Shuchuo continuously backed up. Even though they were immortal kings, when facing opponents of the same level, or even a bit stronger than them, this type of killing situation was still extremely passive. What was even more hateful was that in terms of numbers, the other party still had the advantage. Under rumbling noises, the 9 Chu Bei erupted with unmatched power, beating Anlin and Shuchuo until they continuously coughed out blood. With a Qi-La noise, a Chu Bei hacked apart Anlin's spear, piercing through his chest. Another rumbling noise sounded. Another Chu Bei got close to Shuchuo's back, an axe hacking apart his back, revealing deep white bones. Retreat! Anlin and Shuchuo's mouths were filled with golden blood, a bit of restraining fear appearing in their eyes, carrying alarm and fear. They found it hard to believe that there was actually such a terrifying existence in this world. However, reality was right before their eyes. If they continued fighting, they might really die in this Heaven Abyss. The 9 individuals that this mysterious person produced, every single one of them were stronger than them. That type of strange immortal force was too terrifying. Their bodies exploded again and again, even those as powerful as them couldn't take it. Dong! Anlin and Shuchuo were struck again. Their bodies suffered heavy blows, and their bodies were sent flying. They coughed out large mouthfuls of blood, seriously injured. Everyone was stunned. Chu Bei displayed his might. His 9 incarnations chased after Anlin and Shuchuo, shocking everyone. In that instant, the boundless desolate border actually became quiet, dead silent. This was too impactful. Those were 2 undying kings, yet today, their entire bodies were dripping with blood, seriously injured, chased by others, in extremely sorry states. Do you think you can leave? A calm voice rang out from Heaven Abyss. In the next moment, under the gazes of billions of people, the 9 figures in Heaven Abyss actually stopped chasing Anlin and Shuchuo. They gathered together, and clenched their fists at the same time, unleashing a dazzling beam of light towards the sky. 9 different colored beams of light intertwined together, and with a loud boom, the strange symbol of Wan flashed, followed by the sound of the immortal Tao. A golden disc covered in runes emerged from within. Under the combined power of the 9 Chu Beis, the golden disc let out a trembling sound, and ripples spread out from it. In that instant, heaven abyss rumbled, shaking intensely like never before. It was to the extent where even that black hole was affected, the black blood flowing within actually showing signs of solidifying. Dang! Ripples swept out. Anlin and Shuchuo's bodies suddenly trembled. In that instant, their pupils rapidly contracted. They turned around to look at the 9 Chubei that were gathered together, fear appearing in their eyes. This was a type of fear that came from the bottom of their hearts. They were undying kings, unmatched existences and immortal ancient. They looked down on the 9 heavens 10 earths, all creatures like ants. After tens of millions of years, right now, they finally felt a type of emotion called uneasiness. They looked at the golden disk above the heads of the 9 Chubei in horror, their bodies actually starting to mysteriously tremble. There was a wave of power they had never come into contact with, one that transcended above them, difficult to resist. Under this wave of power, even if it was them, they were still restricted, the circulation of immortal force within their bodies becoming incomparably slow. Anlin, do not fear anyone! Anlin roared out, his roar shaking up desolate border, forcefully forcing himself to remain calm. At the same time, the essence blood within his body burned crazily, squeezing out his life force to struggle free from the golden disk's restrictions. Dong! However, in the end, before Anlin could struggle free, a streak of divine multicolored light rushed out from the golden disk. With a ping noise, Anlin's body exploded. Collect! An indifferent syllable sounded from Chubei's mouth. Then, unmatched divine chains of order surged from the golden disk, dragging Anlin's body that was currently slowly reassembling into the bowl. Chi. Under the gazes of millions and millions of creatures, Anlin's exploded body was dragged into the golden disk by the divine chains of order. Immediately afterwards, a strange grinding noise sounded by everyone's ears, as if it was a type of chewing sound. Let me out! What exactly are you? Anlin's miserable screams of pain sounded from the golden disk, his voice carrying fear, as if he was currently suffering an irresistible torment. This was pain even undying kings found hard to endure. Millions and millions of creatures sucked in a cold breath of air, looking at the giant golden bowl in heaven abyss in fear, all of them shivering. The golden disk was shining, especially at the center of the disk, even more so surging with 9-colored immortal light. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, after a few breaths of time, Anlin's miserable screams disappeared without a trace. What disappeared along with them was that terrifying chewing sound. How is this possible? Old ancestor Anlin's body is gone, completely gone. Could it be that old ancestor has already fallen? What kind of background does that disk have? Why did I just see a mouth at the center of that disk? Was it just my imagination? Millions and millions of foreign creatures fell onto the ground, their trembling voices carrying heart palpitations. Just now, their faith, their king, was seized by that golden disk, his life or death unknown. Scarlet King! A great enemy is attacking! Wake up, save me! Within heaven abyss, Shuchuo stared straight at the golden disk, eyes carrying fear. Anlin died. He couldn't sense Anlin's aura anymore. While in alarm, he condensed all of his immortal force, a streak of multicolored light flying out from between his brows, entering the depths of the foreign realm along with his vigorous voice. Hong! Immediately afterwards, a sky-shocking noise sounded from the depths of the foreign realm. A wave of majestic aura pervaded the air, producing heaven and earth irregular scenes. In the depths of the foreign realm, only a giant figure appeared, opening its eyes high up in the sky, as if a terrifying creature woke up from a deep slumber. He looked towards heaven abyss, a giant hand reaching over, a black river surging in his palm. However, upon closer inspection, there were actually millions of stars floating within the river. Dang! The golden disk trembled, a ripple shooting out, facing the giant hand that reached over from the depths of the foreign realm. The two were in a deadlock, all things in this world frozen in place. Those this great one wishes to kill, no one can stop them. Inside heaven abyss, the 9 figures merged into one Chubei again. After giving the figure that woke up in the depths of the foreign realm a look, his eyes locked onto Shuchuo's body. Collect! When this word sounded, divine chains of order surged from the golden disk again, instantly piercing through Shuchuo's body, firmly wrapping around him. Scarlet! Scarlet King, save me! Shuchuo's eyes were filled with alarm. He didn't move, gathering all of his immortal force to release a vigorous voice, transmitting it into the depths of the foreign realm. Roar! A great roar sounded from the depths of the foreign realm. Another giant palm slapped overlaying the previous giant palm. Dang! When it looked like the ripples released by the golden disk were about to shatter, another layer of ripples overlaid. The two were in a deadlock again. When they looked at Shuchuo again, he was already dragged into the disk by the divine chains of order amidst his alarmed cries. Kacha, kacha! Similar chewing sounds sounded again. What accompanied this was Shuchuo's miserable howls of pain. This scene was incomparably similar. All of you look, it appeared again. That giant mouth at the center of the disk. It's not an illusion. This is a disk that can eat people. A disk that can even devour undying kings. Is old ancestor Shuchuo going to follow in old ancestor Anlin's footsteps? How could such a terrifying fella appear in the 9 heavens 10 earths? Undying kings are taking action, death. The foreign realm's millions and millions of creatures stared blankly at the golden disk in heaven abyss, watching as that giant mouth continuously nibbled at Shuchuo, the strange chewing sounds echoing by their ears, all of them feeling great fear. Kill! The instant Shuchuo's miserable cries disappeared, that figure in the depths of the foreign realm was completely angered, killing intent surging like a river, engulfing heaven abyss. At the same time, a wide silver blade moved through the void, directly appearing in heaven abyss, carrying a blazing rain of light as it hacked towards Chubei. The power of this blade seemed to be able to break through space-time barriers. Even Yi Fan, who was watching from the other space-time, couldn't help but frown. This one's time is already up, or else I will definitely cut you down. An indifferent voice drifted out from heaven abyss, transmitting all the way into the depths of the foreign realm. Then, with a dang metal-ringing noise, Chubei recalled the golden disk, brandishing the heaven-splitting axe, facing that wide silver blade, sending it flying back into the hands of that figure in the depths of the foreign realm. Break for me! After sending the wide silver blade flying, Chubei stepped on the golden disk, the returning heaven-splitting axe lightly trembling behind him, arriving in front of the black hole at the very top of heaven abyss. Following a roar, the golden disk and heaven-splitting axe smashed forward at the same time. Hong Long! A great noise sounded, the black hole exploding. The black blood inside carried red natural law order, turning into a waterfall, and then it turned into a blood-colored sea, vast and mighty as it poured down. In that instant, the originally hazy heaven abyss became a sea of natural laws, divine light of order pervading the air. Not good! Heaven abyss is collapsing! While looking at the changed heaven abyss, the endless foreign creatures snapped out of their fear of Anlin and Shuchuo being killed, crying out one after another. Heaven abyss collapsed, the two worlds heaven and earth shaking, completely separated. This scene was too shocking. Great stars exploded one after another like firecrackers, the collapsing areas exploding, that wave of energy leaving everyone horrified. That immortal city previously controlled by desolate borders 7 kings flew out, breaking apart in the sea of natural laws, turning into fragments and scattering. It's over, heaven abyss dam burst, turning into a sea of primordial natural laws. We can't make it through, I fear that it won't be possible for at least 1,000,000 years. Among the foreign creatures, several powerful supreme beings gazed at the collapsing heaven abyss, muttering to themselves. Hong Long Long. At this time, that wide silver blade turned back, carrying an even more terrifying aura, smashing fiercely into the collapsing heaven abyss. However, the power of natural laws of order of heaven abyss that was filled with black blood like an ocean was thousands of times greater than before. The wide silver blade hacked out again and again, but it was completely useless. 9 heavens 10 earths, in front of Imperial Pass. The endless cultivators stared blankly at the young man who descended from the sky, his hands behind his back, calm and collected, completely speechless. Right now, the heaven-splitting axe and golden disc behind Chu Bei disappeared without a trace, the Taiji diagram beneath his feet disappearing. His aura underwent a change, as if he returned to the very beginning. Collapsed, Senior Chu destroyed heaven abyss. Finally, a cry of alarm was the first to break the deathly stillness. With this beginning, the endless cultivators all reacted. In that instant, excited cries filled Imperial Pass. The foreign Anlin and Shuchuo are dead! Heaven abyss collapsed, we don't have to worry about these foreign dogs invading anymore. Haha, there's no need to fight anymore. Everything has returned to normal. I can return to the 9 heavens 10 earths. It's been a long time since I went back to take a look. The endless cultivators looked at heaven abyss that turned into a sea of natural laws, all of them hugging each other, incredibly excited. Chapter 470. As the battle ended, as well as the passage of time, the 9 heavens 10 earth soldiers gradually calmed down. Then, their eyes all looked towards Chu Bei, almost at the same time kneeling on the ground with putong sounds, their faces filled with sincere gratitude. Many thanks to Senior Chu for saving us. Desolate Borders. Millions of soldiers knew Chu Bei's surname, all of them speaking out, their roars ringing through Desolate Border. Senior Chu, you are not only our benefactor, you are even more so the benefactor of the 9 heavens 10 earths. Meng Tianjing arrived at Chu Bei's side, his face full of respect. After witnessing the previous battle, the way he addressed him also changed accordingly. Even though the current Chu Bei's aura was only a bit stronger than his, he didn't dare call him Dao friend anymore. Just now, he had personally witnessed the other party kill the foreign Anlin and Shuchuo. Those were 2 undying kings. While looking at the collapsed heaven abyss, Meng Tianjing's expression was one of relief, as if a great stone had been lifted from his heart. The Desolate Borders disaster left behind from Immortal Ancient was finally resolved. Immortal Wang and Zhao Haotian's primordial spirits also flew over, bowing towards Chu Bei, not carrying the slightest bit of resentment. The 2 of them exchanged a look, their eyes filled with sorrow. It wasn't just them, the other supreme beings were also like this, looking towards the foreign side, all of them releasing a sigh of relief. Endless time passed, 1,000,000 years passed in a flash. They had guarded this place their entire lives. Now they could finally roam the 9 heavens 10 earths, live a different life. All of this was thanks to the mysterious and unknown Chu Xian King in front of him. Master! At this time, the other space-time Yifan landed in front of Chu Bei, bowing deeply, his face full of respect. Even though the 2 looked extremely close, there was a long river of time between them, a space-time barrier. Are you all right on your side? Chu Bei calmly looked at Yifan. This disciple can still handle it. Yifan replied, and then his eyes carried worry. Master, that battle before didn't affect you in any way, right? It's fine, there is no need to worry. Chu Bei's lips carried a smile. Master, what is above the high heavens? How can we go there? Yifan's expression became serious as he asked Chu Bei for advice. Let's become an emperor first. Chu Bei answered. Becoming an emperor? Yifan was stunned at first. After muttering to himself, he nodded. I understand. That day won't be far away. At his level, he naturally knew that the Emperor Chu Bei was referring to wasn't a grand emperor at the peak of the human Tao but an immortal emperor at the peak of the immortal Tao. Father, I miss you. Yi Qingxian's eyes were red. She brought Shihao in front of Chu Bei, looking at Yifan from a close distance. Their absent-mindedness was filled with deep shock. They didn't know the reason, but from this Senior Chu's words, they could deduce 2 points. First, the other party could be said to belong to any era. Second, the other party had eternal life, true eternal life. Roar! Just as everyone was about to ask something else, A long roar sounded from the other side of the collapsed heaven abyss. They could vaguely see a huge figure holding a silver axe, glaring at Chu Bei with unwillingness. "Senior, who is that?" Meng Tianjing's pupils constricted. Even through the collapsed heaven abyss, he only glanced at the other party, and an inexplicable chill rose from his back, piercing into his bones. "A little fella whose strength is even above Anlin Shichuo's, a giant among immortal kings." Chu Bei looked in the other side's direction, saying with a smile, "However, you all don't need to worry. If he wants to come over, it will be at least 1,000,000 years later. At that time, even if this great one isn't here, Little Stone will have grown up, enough to fight against him." "That's good." When they heard Chu Bei's words, the tens of millions of cultivators released a sigh of relief. Host quelled the chaos in Desolate Border, Level 15 Commodity Authority unlocked. Host cultivation has increased to the peak of Level 15. Host is rewarded with Xiaohei's power, the right to use a Level 19 commodity. Host will enter All Heaven's City for training in 15 days. Not long after the tens of millions of soldiers returned to Imperial Pass, the system's voice sounded in Chu Bei's sea of consciousness. "Finally unlocked Level 15 authority." Chu Bei stood on the city wall, feeling the aura and power within his body rise another level. The corners of his lips couldn't help but rise. Now, without relying on the system, nor did he borrow Xiaohei's power, his own strength already reached the peak of Level 15. If it corresponded to the perfect world's cultivation system, then this was the self-release realm. "Am I going to enter All Heaven's City again?" A moment later, Chu Bei released another sigh. Whenever his cultivation rose too quickly, he would have to enter All Heaven's City to train, experience an endless period of boredom. The second day after Desolate Border's great battle ended, countless cultivators in Imperial Pass, under the lead of a group of self-release realm experts, cleaned up the battlefield. Even though a day had passed, in every corner of Imperial Pass and even the 9 heavens 10 earths, wherever there were people, there were still intense discussions about the Desolate Border great battle from the previous day. Among them, the one who was talked about the most was none other than Senior Chu Bei. This was an unmatched expert who could freely swim through the great river of time, killed 2 undying kings from the other side, Anlin and Shichuo. It wasn't just cultivators. Following a finger pointing out, endless heavenly lightning entered his body. "This little fella has the aptitude of an immortal king," Meng Tianjing muttered to himself. "He might be the youngest immortal king from past to present," Immortal Wang said with a sigh. "Hong Long!" Another earth-shattering sound rang out. A dragon cry sounded from within Shihao's body. Immediately afterwards, resplendent radiance was released from Shihao's body, strange symbols appearing one after another. Engravement realm, success. A long time later, the lightning above the mountain range scattered, everything becoming calm again. Shihao moved his muscles and bones, collecting the symbols around his body. He stepped on the void, landing in front of Chu Bei, and then bowed deeply. "Master, this disciple broke through." Shihao's tender voice drifted through the air. "And?" Chu Bei released a light sound of acknowledgement, nodding in satisfaction. "Many thanks for Master's help." Shihao revealed an expression of gratitude. The reason why he could use 15 days to break through from Heavenly Passage to Engravement Realm was most likely because of the Heavenly Merchant City's heaven and earth's supreme treasure. "Great Ancestor, how is Junior Marshal Uncle's talent compared to Great One Father's?" Yi Qingxian arrived in front of Chu Bei, eyes carrying curiosity. "The natural laws of heaven and earth are different, there is no way to compare." Chu Bei laughed, and said, "Little Stone, from now on, you will need to walk your own path." Chu Bei's light eyes landed on Shihao's body, pinching his cheeks. "Master, what do you mean by these words? Are you going to leave?" Shihao seemed to have guessed at something. His large eyes became watery, tears about to roll down his cheeks. "Master has already stayed here for long enough, it is time for me to take a walk in the other starry domains." Chu Bei wiped away Shihao's tears. "Even if Master isn't here, don't slack off and properly cultivate. Your path is still long. From now on, just stay in the heavenly deity institution. This disciple will follow Master's orders. I will definitely not disappoint Master's teachings. Sure Hao nodded heavily. Great Ancestor, are you going to look for Great One Father? Yi Qingxian pursed her lips, asking in a probing manner. Chu Bei shook his head. Don't worry, your father will be fine. 15 days had already passed. If he still didn't enter Heavenly City, the system would forcefully bring him there. 1. Chu Bei's divine will moved, the wheel of time and space appearing. With a single step, he quickly arrived in a world full of primal chaos. Soon afterwards, Chu Bei arrived at a familiar place of training. This was a city that had almost become an expanse of ruins, ruined buildings everywhere, not a single figure to be seen in the city. Just like before, when Chu Bei had just appeared above the city, a strange buzzing noise sounded from the city below. Immediately afterwards, an irresistible suction force sucked him into the city. Chi! As soon as Chu Bei entered the city, a black figure with self-released realm strength rushed over murderously. Chu Bei released a sigh, and then he raised his hand to face it. Time passed quickly. Endless years later. Host's training has ended. Host has left Heavenly City. Inside Heavenly City, Chu Bei didn't know how much time had passed, nor did he know how many billions of beasts he had killed. When he finished killing the most recent wave, he suddenly felt a strange sense of absent-mindedness. A trembling voice sounded in his head. It's finally over. Chu Bei sat down next to a corpse, releasing a long sigh. After this training, in addition to the beasts he killed in the previous 2 training sessions, the blue specks of light he obtained already condensed into a total of 9 blue liquid droplets. However, from start to finish, he still didn't know what these blue liquid droplets were. Outside world. 9 heavens 10 earths, desolate border. The walls of Imperial Pass that had originally been peaceful for 1,000 years were now filled with all types of powerful cultivators, no lack of supreme being existences among them. The atmosphere was exceptionally heavy. Rumble rumble. At the center of the endless desolate great earth, the collapsed heaven abyss that separated the 9 heavens 10 earths from desolate border suddenly trembled, releasing continuous ear-splitting rumbling noises. Chapter 471. What is going on? Could it be that Heaven Abyss is going to break through again? Is the 1,000 years of peace going to be broken? The most terrifying thing still happened. Didn't Senior Chu say before he left that we could have 1,000,000 years of peace? On desolate border city walls, the 9 heavens 10 earth soldiers looked at the swaying Heaven Abyss, their brows tightly furrowed, their expressions incredibly heavy. Hong Long! Suddenly, there was an earth-shaking explosion. They only saw Heaven Abyss that collapsed into a sea of natural laws surge. Then, under the eyes of countless experts, a weapon appeared. Its aura was simple and intimidating, as if it was going to cut open the sea of natural laws, cut open a passage. Not good! There are foreign experts trying to break through Heaven Abyss! Damn it! Don't tell me they really are going to make it through! Back then, Senior Chu powerfully took action to kill Anlin and Shuchuo, shattering Heaven Abyss, thus ensuring 1,000 years of peace. Could it be that the peaceful days are going to end so quickly? Do any of you know where that boss Chu is? If we can find him, then even if the foreign experts make it through, so what? While looking at the scene in Heaven Abyss, the cultivators looked at each other in dismay, their eyes carrying fear. That was a war halberd. It flickered with cold radiance, releasing chilliness, currently continuously smashing into Heaven Abyss. Just the halberd blade that appeared from time to time was already too terrifying, the void collapsing, the sea of natural laws surging, as if great waves were striking the heavens. The entire boundless battlefield was shaking. That wave of aura was clearly separated by Heaven Abyss, yet it still made one's heart tremble, even their souls trembling. This wave of aura, it is a foreign undying king taking action. The 9 heavens 10 earths experts looked at each other, their voices full of fear. This was definitely a foreign undying king taking action, or else how could there be such a terrifying aura? Kacha! Following this clear sound, the hearts of the 9 heavens 10 earths experts immediately sunk to the bottom. This time, that war halberd didn't just pierce through heaven abyss with the blade, but rather half of the halberd body. Fortunately, heaven abyss mysterious power firmly wrapped around the war halberd, or else this imperial pass might have already been destroyed by the war halberd's aura. Finally, the rumbling sound stopped. The war halberd calmed down, resting horizontally in heaven abyss just like that, half of it sticking out, allowing the divine chains of order to batter it, allowing the sea of decrees to corrode it, releasing killing intent. Which undying king's weapon is this? Heaven abyss is acting strangely. Is he going to seize the opportunity to come over? No way! Without Senior Chu, the strongest person in the 9 heavens 10 earths is only Elder Meng. Not to mention immortal kings, even if an immortal from another domain came, we would still suffer a calamity. On Imperial Pass walls, the 9 heavens 10 earths experts looked at the spear flickering with cold radiance, their faces full of alarm. They're coming. Suddenly, a self-release realm expert released a trembling voice, his voice carrying despair. In the next moment, with a boom, a blurry figure appeared in the crumbling heaven abyss. He took a step forward as if he wanted to cross over to the 9 heavens 10 earths. All kinds of lightning surged down and bombarded his body, but they were unable to cause him any harm. Chi. When they saw that the war halberd in hand was about to cross over to heaven abyss surged with endless scarlet multicolored light, the brilliance endless. Blood-colored symbols burned fiercely, forcing that figure back. Hurry and look. Heaven abyss is still useful, that undying king can't cross over. While looking at the sea of blood like heaven abyss, the 9 heavens 10 earths experts released a breath of relief. But the war halberd is still there. It wasn't forced back by heaven abyss. When they saw that blurry figure being forced back, the 9 heavens 10 earths people carried hope as they looked towards the half of the spear that passed through heaven abyss. However, what left them shocked was that this war halberd wasn't damaged, and the halberd blade's radiance became more and more resplendent. It was trembling, resisting heaven abyss, facing the sea of natural laws. Hong Long! The moment the halberd blade's radiance stabilized, a great noise sounded. A large purple word erupted in front of the halberd blade, a striking death character. When the death character appeared, the sea of natural laws was blasted aside. Then, a large half of the war halberd reached out. I know who he is. There was an ancient supreme being who seemed to have recognized that war halberd's origins through that large purple word. His voice was trembling, his face pale. However, he didn't say that person's name. It was because every single undying king possessed matchless and immeasurable strength. He was worried that if he called out the other party's name, there would be some unpredictable consequences. Wu Shang. In the sky, Meng Tianjing's brows furrowed, saying this name. Only he separated these two words, only saying them after a long time had passed. What? How could it be him? No wonder this war halberd has such power. What do we do now? Could it be that we really don't have a choice? On Imperial Pass walls, there were supreme beings who sighed, there were supreme beings whose voices were trembling. At their cultivation realms, there was already not much that could affect their emotions. Within the massive Imperial Pass city, above the streets, a layer of ripples appeared out of nowhere. Within the ripples, an azure passage appeared. A young man dressed in a purple robe slowly walked out from within. As soon as this young man appeared, he turned his head towards desolate border, his brows furrowing slightly. The young man was precisely Chu Bei, who had just left All Heaven City. 1,000 years ago, wasn't Heaven Abyss destroyed by Boss Chu? Why was it broken through again? Fortunately, the foreign undying kings and undying beings couldn't cross over, or else Imperial Pass might already no longer exist. The time is still too short. If he was given another 1,000 years, with the talent sure how displayed, it should be enough to enter the Supreme Being realm. According to what I know, Sure Hao is already at the peak of self-release realm, right? If he really was given another 1,000 years, in my opinion, he might even become a true immortal. Even though the foreign undying kings and undying beings couldn't cross over, there are quite a few supreme beings who came, their numbers far exceeding ours. If only Senior Chu was here, then we wouldn't have to worry. Even Anlin and Shichuo could be killed. Even if another foreign undying king came, it would still be the same result. Inside Imperial Pass, a group of cultivators looked piously at the massive Chu Bei statue in the plaza, voices of discussion continuously sounding. The discussions of the people around him sounded by his ears. Chu Bei smiled inwardly. Immediately afterwards, he silently disappeared from the streets. Desolate border. Chu Bei appeared on Imperial Pass city walls. At his side was a blue-dressed young lady who carried a white ball of flesh. The young lady looked like she was only 14 or 15, her cultivation even more so pitifully weak, just at the spirit transformation realm. It was unknown how she arrived here. If there was a supreme being here, they would immediately be able to tell that the white ball of flesh she carried was extraordinary. That was a purebred divine beast Qilin. Great One Sure Hao, you can do it! You are the best! Kill all of these foreign Emperor clan young experts. Let them know how formidable we are. Kill them until they don't dare invade us again. The blue-dressed young lady shouted towards the endless desert with a face of worship, her expression just like a fangirl. Hey, who are you? Forget it, who cares who you are? Hurry and cheer for Sure Hao Great One together. He killed 9 foreign Emperor clan young experts in a row. The blue-dressed young lady noticed Chu Bei's existence, tugging at Chu Bei's arm, having Chu Bei learn from her and shout. You really don't know how to appreciate the situation. Sure Hao Great One is fighting for our 9 heavens 10 earths. He is killing the enemy in our place. If not for him and Principal Meng, these supreme beings, would you still be standing here? When she saw Chu Bei remain unmoved, the blue-dressed young lady frowned, unable to help but glare at Chu Bei. It was the young Qilin in the blue-dressed young lady's arms that gave Chu Bei a look, instinctively trembling, its large watery eyes filled with fear. Chu Bei naturally wouldn't bicker with the blue-dressed young lady. After laughing, his eyes turned towards the battlefield. Chapter 472. When one looked carefully, the so-called battle between the 9 heavens 10 earths and the other side was nothing more than a battlefield between 2 individuals. On the battlefield, 2 figures continuously interweaved, bombarding each other, displaying unmatched precious techniques one after another. The 9 heavens 10 earth side, with Meng Tianjing in the lead, had a total of 9 supreme beings, 4 of them holding true immortal artifacts. On the other side, with a white-haired elder in the lead, there were a total of 30 supreme beings, more than 3 times the number of the 9 heavens 10 earths. Previously, the 2 sides already fought fiercely once. It was precisely because their peak fighting strength had clashed that the younger generation's experts fought. In terms of numbers, even though the number of supreme beings on the other side far exceeded the 9 heavens 10 earths, it was different from 500 years ago. This time, they actually didn't bring undying weapons. Meanwhile, among the 9 heavens 10 earths supreme beings, there were some who held true immortal artifacts, which was why they chose to have the supreme beings temporarily stop fighting. The other side's supreme beings didn't fight, so Meng Tianjing and the others naturally wouldn't take the initiative to attack either. After all, they only had 9 supreme beings left. Each time one died, there would be 1 less. It wasn't like the other side who could continuously send supreme beings over. Hong Long! On the battlefield, a miserable scream sounded amidst the great noise. Within the interweaving radiance, a figure flew out. Immediately afterwards, before that figure could even stabilize himself, his body seemed to have been suddenly torn apart by a tremendous force. Even his soul was torn into nothingness. We won! We won again! Ha ha! 10 consecutive victories! What so-called foreign emperor clan? Before our Sure Hao Great One, they are nothing more than ants. Truly worthy of being Senior Chu's disciple. While looking at the figure that was torn apart, the 9 Heavens Tenorous experts were first stunned, and then they cheered excitedly. Who else is there? Come and accept death! The void trembled, powerful voices echoing through the boundless great desert. On the battlefield, a silver-robed man coldly looked at the foreign experts in front of him, his eyes sweeping over the foreign younger generation, his bearing confident, his words carrying disdain. He stood in the void, his temperament graceful and aloof, his eyes carrying a type of shocking fighting intent. The most eye-catching thing was the massive divine pill floating behind him. Damn it! They are clearly at the same cultivation realm. Why is he so strong? What kind of ability is that? The foreign younger generation experts' fists were tightly clenched, their faces full of resentment as they stared at Sure Hao. In the picture scroll, mountains and rivers were magnificent, great stars swirling about. A complete great world was presented, incredibly realistic. It quietly rested in the void just like that, yet a wave of terrifying aura pervaded the air, as if it was going to suppress the world. Xian Yuan Divine Spear, 10 Realms Diagram. When they saw Immortal Wang and Zhao Haotian activate these two great immortal artifacts, the expressions of the foreign supreme beings became even more overcast. Hong Long Long. Right when the atmosphere became strange, Heaven Abyss suddenly erupted. Immediately afterwards, that war halberd fiercely shook. Immediately afterwards, several spheres of light flew out from the halberd blade, floating in the air. They finally came! While looking at the weapons that contained unmatched auras in the spheres of light, the foreign supreme beings revealed smiles. Then, the foreign close to 30 supreme beings all held undying divine artifacts in their hands. They all looked towards Meng Tianjing, Immortal Wang and the others, their eyes full of ridicule. Damn it! Turns out you all were stalling for time this entire time. When they saw the undying divine artifacts that suddenly appeared, the expressions of the 9 Heavens 10 Earth's supreme beings changed, becoming incomparably ugly. One of the 9 Heavens Supremes, who was the oldest among them, cursed. Indeed! When Wu Shan Great One sent us in, he told us that the undying divine artifacts could not come with us. Even if he took action, it might take a bit of time. At first, we thought that by relying on our advantage in numbers, even without the undying divine artifacts, we could still capture you all. Who knew, regardless of whether it was the Immortal King Corpse Wrapping Cloth, Xian Yuan Divine Spear, or 10 Realms Diagram, they were all far more difficult to deal with than we imagined. It was to the extent where, because we underestimated the enemy, we even lost 7 supreme beings. Because of this, we had no choice but to use stalling methods. However, we never expected that for the sake of stalling for time, that little fella actually slaughtered 10 of our Emperor clan's younger generation. Now, with our undying divine artifacts in hand, what are you all going to use to fight against us? The white-haired elder leading the foreign side held a purple longsword in his hands, the sword tip pointing straight at Meng Tianjing. The purple longsword carried immortal energy, swirling with immortal splendor. However, it also carried a wave of killing intent, going against the auspiciousness of the immortal Tao. It spread outwards, turning into a divine killing weapon. When they heard the white-haired elder's words, the expressions of the 9 Heavens 10 Earth's cultivators changed at the same time, all of them overcast to the extreme. The current situation is unfavorable for us. I wonder if the Supreme Being Great Ones can hold on. Perhaps Imperial Pass really is going to be broken through today. The number of supreme beings on the other side is 3 times that of ours. In desolate border battlefield, countless cultivators' auras began to rise. From their resolute expressions, they clearly already made preparations to fight to the death. What do we do? What do we do? The situation doesn't seem to be good. On the city wall, the blue-dressed young lady paced about, her face full of worry and anxiety. Attack, don't leave a single one alive. Kill the supreme beings first, and then kill the small fries. On the battlefield, following the white-haired elder's orders, the foreign supreme beings all erupted with dazzling divine radiance, their auras rising to the extreme. They all held undying divine artifacts, smashing towards the 9 heavens 10 earths supreme beings. We still can't escape this disaster. While looking at the several supreme beings who threw themselves over, Meng Tianjing released a deep sigh. As if he made some type of decision, a great roar sounded from his mouth like that of a great wasteland beast. Then, his eyes immediately became bloodshot. Revive, past war blood. Meng Tianjing released a low roar. Then, it was as if he suddenly became a different person. Unknowingly, when a longbow appeared in his hands, the blood in his hands quickly seeping into the longbow at a speed visible to the naked eye. He was muttering, roaring, as if he was chanting an ancient incantation, wishing to release something. What is going on? Isn't that his Tao corroborating weapon? He seems to be destroying it. Why is this? When he noticed the cracks that were starting to spread on the longbow in Meng Tianjing's hands, the foreign supreme beings frowned, their faces carrying confusion. Meng Tianjing didn't pay the foreign supreme beings any attention, continuing to stroke the great bow in his hands, extremely softly, carrying reluctance, as well as a type of regret. Turns out it was like this. Your past Tao fruits and accomplishments are all within this bow. It was buried by you, producing great Tao life force. Immortal Wang seemed to have seen through something, his expression becoming complicated, a look of bewilderment appearing in his eyes. He said quietly, "Doing this, is it really worth it? Imperial Pass is about to be broken through, what is worth it? What is not worth it?" Meng Tianjing looked towards Immortal Wang, chuckling. One could vaguely see a figure appear from the bow that was about to collapse, as if it was Meng Tianjing when he was young. Not good. His aura is becoming stronger, there is something strange. Attack together, kill Meng Tianjing first. When they sensed Meng Tianjing's aura fluctuations, the foreign supreme beings noticed something strange. In that instant, the 5 foreign supreme beings who were comparatively closer all held undying divine artifacts, attacking Meng Tianjing together. "Brother Meng, just let me buy you a few seconds." Immortal Wang shook his head, releasing a sigh. His hands gripped the Xianyuan divine spear tightly, looking towards the 5 foreign supreme beings who slaughtered their way over. His eyes narrowed, killing intent surging. Wang. However, right when Immortal Wang was about to brandish the divine spear to face the enemy, a wave of chilliness mysteriously rose from behind him. Immediately afterwards, a wave of mysterious force he found hard to resist swept past his body. This type of feeling was as if he had brushed shoulders with death. When he reacted, looking forward again, the expressions of those 5 foreign supreme beings who held undying divine artifacts suddenly froze. Then, before they even had time to release miserable cries, their bodies and souls were simultaneously torn into nothingness by a wave of formless force. What happened to the 5 great ones? They were still fine just now, why did they disappear all of a sudden? Even the undying divine artifacts are gone. Could it be that the 5 great ones died? What exactly is going on? Could it be related to that Meng Tianjing? Impossible! Those are 5 of our side's supreme beings. Even if he really has some kind of secret method, there is no way he could make 5 great ones disappear so quietly. The foreign younger generation looked at the 5 supreme beings who suddenly disappeared. They were first stunned, and then their expressions froze, faces full of confusion and disbelief. It was also at this moment that those foreign supreme beings who originally held undying divine artifacts slaughtered towards the other 9 heavens 10 earths experts stopped their attacks. Then they all gave each other a look, and then their eyes landed on the white-haired elder in the lead, their eyes carrying fear, waiting for the other party's instructions. Chapter 473. Who is helping us? Could it be those restricted region great ones who took action? Is it really them? Ever since Immortal Ancients' battle, they have never taken action. When they saw this scene, the 9 heavens 10 earths supreme beings looked at each other in dismay. They looked around, as if they were searching for something. Immortal Wang and Zhao Haotian held the Xianyuan divine spear and 10 realms diagram respectively, standing in front of Meng Tianjing. Meanwhile, Meng Tianjing's rising aura didn't stop, still continuing. Even though there was a mysterious formless force that helped him deal with danger, he didn't know the source of this power. Right now, he didn't dare gamble on whether or not that wave of power would appear again. Only by increasing his own strength could he protect Imperial Pass behind him. Who is it? So what if you are hiding your head and tail? The white-haired elder leading the foreign side scanned the surrounding void with his divine senses. He frowned, releasing a shout from his mouth. However, with his perception, he actually couldn't sense anything strange at all. Hurry and stop Meng Tianjing! When he saw that no one replied, the white-haired elder's eyes returned to Meng Tianjing, immediately giving the order. When they heard this, the foreign supreme beings, after exchanging looks, all of them held undying divine artifacts, smashing towards Meng Tianjing. This is a bit troublesome. While looking at the foreign supreme beings who attacked from all directions, Immortal Wang and Zhao Haotian's expressions became extremely ugly. Not a single one of these foreign supreme beings was weaker than them. Brother Wang, Brother Zhao, I must ask you all to buy me another 30 seconds. A pleading voice sounded from Meng Tianjing's mouth. His skin was already bulging with veins, eyes even more so covered in wisps of blood. When his voice sounded, his aura erupted, the speed at which it rose doubled. Little fella, your Dao core hasn't formed yet. Doing things like this will not only sever your Dao, it will even bear your life. During these years I'll have to trouble you to take care of my disciple. However, when they saw that the void figure within Meng Tianjing's Bao was about to step out, a voice that carried laughter sounded from heaven and earth. Even though this voice wasn't loud, it seemed to have a wave of magical force, clearly sounding in everyone's minds. He appeared! When they heard this voice, Immortal Wang and Zhao Haotian were first stunned. After a moment of absent-mindedness, their bodies began to tremble slightly. 1,000 years ago, thanks to the owner of this voice, their bodies were destroyed. However, at that moment, they did not feel any hatred. In the situation before them, to be able to hear this somewhat familiar voice made them feel inexplicably excited and happy. At the very least, with this person here, the Imperial Pass behind them was saved. It was also at this moment that Meng Tianjing's rising aura was forcibly suppressed by a force. The cracked longbow in his hand was repaired, and his skin began to recover its original appearance. His aura gradually stabilized. Senior, you're really back! Meng Tianjing took a deep breath, unable to conceal the excitement on his face. His relaxed expression was as if a huge rock that had been weighing down on his heart had been lifted. As for the other side, with the white-haired elder in the lead, the Supreme Being's brows were tightly furrowed, incredibly vigilant as they looked around the void. Rumble. Suddenly, an expanse of ripples arose in the space in front of Meng Tian, and then a blurry figure that was covered in chaos appeared within the ripples. Did you hear what he said to Meng Tianjing? He was thanking Meng Tianjing for grooming his disciple. Who was his disciple? Sure how? When the blurry figure appeared, the other side's younger generation were the first to cry out in alarm. Their eyes moved between Chu Bei and Sure Hao's bodies. They personally witnessed the previous 10 battles. Sure Hao slaughtered their younger generation's experts with an unmatched stance, slaughtering them until none of them dared fight. Hurry and look! It is definitely Senior Chu! Haha, he really appeared! This means that our Imperial Pass is saved. Everything is fine now. The 9 Heavens 10 Earth's cultivators stared blankly at the blurry figure that suddenly appeared on the battlefield. When they reacted, they were all incomparably excited, their faces full of joy. If this one didn't come back, would the 9 Heavens 10 Earths still exist? A voice that carried laughter but was also full of dignity cut through the clamoring of the battlefield. Retreat! Hurry and retreat! Why did he come back? Great One, who exactly is this person? 1,000 years ago, that existence who killed Anlin and Shichuo Great One. The foreign supreme beings panicked, to the extent where they didn't even have time to worry about the Emperor clan younger generation, all of them rushing towards the Sea of Law. However, when they saw that these foreign supreme beings were about to borrow that war halberd to return to the other side, that void figure wrapped in primal chaos raised his arm. Immediately afterwards, these foreign supreme beings' figures were mysteriously locked in place by a wave of strange power, not moving at all, as if they were wooden people without life. Hong Long! Under rumbling sounds, an expanse of white ripples surged from Chu Bei's palm. These ripples were like a cool breeze, blowing past the foreign great army. Chi. Under ear-splitting tearing sounds, regardless of whether it was the Emperor clan younger generation, supreme beings, or undying divine artifacts, they all turned into nothingness, disappearing from the 9 heavens 10 earths cultivators' line of sight. It's over! Those were more than 20 foreign supreme beings. They were all gone in an instant. What is there to be shocked about? Senior Chu is but an unmatched existence who killed Anlin and Shichuo. Forget about supreme beings, even if the foreign undying came, in Senior Chu's eyes, they would still be nothing more than ants, able to be killed with a raise of his hand. While looking at the foreign great army that instantly disappeared, the 9 heavens 10 earths cultivators stared blankly for a moment. Then, they raised their heads towards that figure in the sky, their expressions incredibly respectful. Disciple, long time no see. Chu Bei's figure flickered, and in the blink of an eye, he appeared at Shihao's side. Words that carried a smile were released from his mouth. Disciple pays his respects to master. A familiar voice sounded by his ears. When he saw this figure he missed for 1,000 years, Shihao took a deep breath. With a ping sound, he knelt down in the air. You can get up. Chu Bei waved his sleeve, supporting Shihao. Still the same as before. While looking at Chu Bei, the 9 heavens 10 earths experts cried out in alarm, all of them bowing, eyes carrying sincere gratitude. Many thanks to Senior for lending a hand. Meng Tianjing immediately flew to Chu Bei's side. Immortal Wang, Zhao Haotian, and the other supreme beings followed closely behind. At this moment, the one whose expression changed the most was none other than the blue-dressed young lady who carried the purebred Shilin on the city wall. Turns out he was Senior Shihao's master. Then if I enter Senior Shihao's tutelage, wouldn't he be my grandmaster? The instant Shihao called Chu Bei master, the blue-dressed young lady's expression suddenly became gray. Her entire body felt as if it was struck by lightning from the 9 heavens, at a loss for what to do, as if she was a clay sculpture. In the end, she was even more stupefied, staring blankly at Chu Bei. Master, where have you been during these 1,000 years? Shihao looked at Chu Bei, asking probingly. Ever since I left 1,000 years ago, Master has always been comprehending the Tao. Only recently, when I sensed the dangers of the 9 heavens 10 earths, did I come out. Chu Bei patted Shihao's shoulder, saying sincerely, As a matter of fact, as soon as I came out, Master came to see you. Many thanks for Master's concern. When he heard Chu Bei's words, Shihao's face revealed a look of joy, as if he returned to the past Shihao. Senior, the heaven abyss you shattered back then seems to be a bit unstable again. Meng Tianjing walked up, cupping his fists towards Chu Bei. Don't worry, with this one here, nothing will happen to the 9 heavens 10 earths. Chu Bei laughed. He naturally understood what Meng Tianjing was worried about. Hong long long, rumbling sounds rang out again. That war halberd that already had a large half of it passed through heaven abyss trembled. Then, the sea of natural laws erupted. Endless symbols flickered with radiance, interweaving with each other, releasing a terrifying aura. Come and fight! An ear-splitting voice full of dignity sounded from the other side of the sea of natural laws. Then, a figure appeared in the collapsing heaven abyss. He gripped the war halberd with one hand, allowing heaven abyss power to bombard him, not taking half a step back. Why did old ancestor Wu Shang enter heaven abyss again? Didn't the 9 heavens 10 earths side already hand over to those supreme being great ones? With an undying divine artifact in hand, logically speaking, the 9 heavens 10 earths should have already been broken through. Don't tell me something strange happened over there. Otherwise, why would old ancestor Wu Shang be so angry? On the other side, tens of millions of soldiers stood in an orderly manner on the great desert, no lack of undying existences among them. When they saw Wu Shang step into heaven abyss, the war halberd in hand releasing a shout, they all revealed expressions of shock. Their brows furrowed one after another, carrying confusion. There were some voices of suspicion as well. Because of the suppression of natural laws in heaven abyss, Wu Shang couldn't directly cross the sea of natural laws. He could only stand in heaven abyss, coldly staring in the direction of the 9 heavens 10 earths. Those eyes that carried purple radiance were especially intimidating. Even though they were separated by heaven abyss, when they met eyes, they would still mysteriously feel a wave of coldness, making one tremble in fear. "It's that undying king! Is he going to fight against Senior Chu? Wu Shang, the existence known as a killing machine from immortal ancient war." While looking at the figure that appeared in heaven abyss, the cultivators of the 9 heavens 10 earths who were originally still celebrating immediately calmed down, their expressions becoming heavy. In the end, their eyes all landed on Chu Bei's body. "Senior, this Wu Shang is even a level higher than Anlin and Shichuo, his strength also above theirs. Right now, he cannot cross heaven abyss, so your respected self does not need to fight against him. I wonder if your respected self can strengthen this heaven abyss a bit more?" When Meng Tianjing continuously said the name Wu Shang, irregular scenes appeared above his head. However, this irregular scene didn't even last for half a second, and then it was torn into nothingness by the terrifying power released from Chu Bei's body. The reason why he didn't want Chu Bei to fight against Wu Shang was because this Wu Shang's reputation really was too terrifying. In immortal ancient war, his prestige far exceeded Anlin and Shichuo. Right now, Chu Bei was the backbone of the 9 heavens 10 earths. If something really happened to the other party, then the 9 heavens 10 earths would really be completely finished. "Do you feel like this one won't accept the challenge?" Chu Bei looked at Meng Tianjing, and after laughing, he flew towards heaven abyss with his hands behind his back. "Master, don't worry, a mere 6th heaven celestial king, Master still doesn't think much of him." Sure Hao revealed a worried expression, but before he could finish speaking, he was interrupted by Chu Bei with a wave of his hand. "Senior Chu is accepting the challenge. Is he going to fight against that undying king from the other side?" Looking at Chu Bei's back, the cultivators of the 9 heavens 10 earths sucked in a breath of air, all of them holding their breaths in concentration, beginning to feel nervous. Compared to the 9 heavens 10 earths, when Chu Bei appeared in heaven abyss, the expressions of the foreign elites could be considered to have truly undergone a world-shaking change. Especially those true immortal elites, their pupils rapidly widening, the space between their brows filled with shock. "It's him! That celestial king who killed Lord Anlin and Lord Shichuo 1,000 years ago. No wonder Lord Wu Shang would take action. Most likely our supreme beings have already been killed by him." A portion of the foreign cultivators recognized Chu Bei, all of them frowning. 1,000 years ago, it was you who killed Anlin and Shichuo? In heaven abyss, Wu Shang looked coldly at Chu Bei, his face expressionless. A wave of killing intent that had condensed into tangible form shook apart the sea of regulations in front of him, heading towards Chu Bei. "If you miss the 2 of them, this lord will send you to see them right now." Chu Bei looked at Wu Shang with a smile, not moving at all, allowing the other party's tangible killing intent to land on him, not affected in the slightest. In an instant, the sea of regulations surged crazily, forming a massive barrier around Chu Bei and Wu Shang. Wu Shang looked at Chu Bei, and did not say anything more. With a cold humph, the halberd in his hand directly swept out. Chang! There were millions of halberd rays, killing intent overflowing into the heavens. In an instant, a flash of terrifying halberd light shot murderously towards Chu Bei. Chu Bei did not dodge, pointing his finger out. Chaotic immortal light spread out from his fingertip, instantly wrapping around the halberd light. Then, there was a crisp shattering sound, and the halberd light turned into powder. "You really do have some ability. No wonder Shichuo and Anlin failed." Wu Shang frowned, and as his cold voice fell, he held the halberd with both hands, then raised it above his head, the tip of the halberd pointing straight at Chu Bei. Great Dao runes interweaved in his hands, and with a loud shout he directly threw the halberd out. Chu Bei's eyes narrowed, and his palm turned into a fist. A supreme power interweaved on the surface of his fist, and a fist blasted out, facing the halberd. Ka! Cold light dazzled the 9 heavens, and accompanied by a crisp sound, the halberd that Wu Shang threw over was directly shattered into countless pieces. In an instant, the foreign cultivators were stunned. This scene left them dead silent, even those undying existences' bodies trembling slightly, an ice-cold chill running from head to toe. Crimson gold halberd, this was the undying King Wu Shang's Tao-proving weapon. In immortal ancients' battle, it had pierced through many immortal kings in the 9 heavens 10 earths, soaked in the blood of countless immortal kings, slaughtering out a vicious reputation. However, just now, when it clashed with that man from the 9 heavens 10 earths, it was blasted to pieces by the latter's fist. How could Wu Shang Great One's Tao-proving weapon be shattered? The foreign cultivators' faces were full of disbelief as they stared at heaven abyss. The halberd fragments there were currently being swallowed up by the sea of natural laws, all the way until they completely disappeared. Could it be that he really already stands at the same height as Wu Shang Great One? 1,000 years ago, he killed Shichuo Great One and Anlin Great One, almost fighting against Scarlet King. When they thought of the deeds of that person in the sea of natural laws, the foreign cultivators' expressions of shock eased a bit, starting to accept the scene they just saw. Chapter 474. In Heaven Abyss, Wu Shang's expression became more and more serious. At present, the person he was facing was more troublesome than he had imagined. Use whatever techniques you have, or you won't have the chance to use them again. There was a smile on Chu Bei's lips. Behind him, layers of white ripples spread out into the distance like a spider's web. Now, he had also exchanged for a top-tier level 19 killing product, and his strength was equivalent to peak stage 9th heaven celestial king. Roar! With a roar, Wu Shang's body suddenly twisted and swelled. Immediately afterward, he changed from human form into a terrifying ancient beast that looked like a true Ho. The ancient beast that Wu Shang had transformed into struck out with its front paw. It was pitch black and huge, like a small mountain, and stirred up the sea of regulations. Wherever this strike passed, seals of great Tao bloomed, accompanied by the terrifying power of regulations, and charged towards Chu Bei. Its might was even above that of the battle halberd from before. Chu Bei still did not retreat. He glanced calmly at the huge paw, not the slightest bit afraid. He raised his hand again, and met the attack head-on. Auspicious light shone from his palm and fingers, and even the whole heaven abyss shook as if there was a huge invisible force tearing at it. Dang! The palm and the paw collided, a sonorous sound shocking the heavens. Amidst the loud sound, it was as if heaven abyss had been ignited. The scene inside was extremely terrifying. One could faintly see where the two had collided. There were stars falling, burning, and then being swallowed up by the sea of regulations. Roar! Wu Shang released a bestial roar again. Then, he opened his mouth, and a 9-colored beam of light that contained endless terrifying energy was shot out. The two figures intertwined endlessly, fighting fiercely in the collapsing heaven abyss. Layers of ripples and light produced by explosions reflected each other. In the aftermath, a large number of stars that had come from unknown places exploded, turning into fine powder. Looking over, Wu Shang's expression became more and more serious. His aura also began to become chaotic, and his attacks were stacked one after another. It was as if he wanted to end this battle as soon as possible. But no matter how he sped up his attacks, and even began to burn a small amount of source blood essence, forcibly raising his power by another minor level, he still could not do anything to his opponent. Looking back at Chu Bei, his expression had not changed much from beginning to the end. As he raised his hand to meet the attacks, he had been incredibly calm and composed. "You've already reached your limit?" As Chu Bei's mocking voice fell, his aura suddenly soared. With a bang, he sent Wu Shang flying. Blood and flesh splattered everywhere. Damn you! Wu Shang glared at Chu Bei, his eyes filled with killing intent. As his cold voice fell, Wu Shang revealed his Dharma idol behind him. It was as tall as Tian Yuan. He opened his mouth and spat out a breath. Black flames burned the sea of laws. The exploding stars were like the most beautiful fireworks, making people's hair stand on end. It was also at this moment that Wu Shang's body became crystal clear, and purple mist rose from the surface of his body. This is Lord Wu Shang's innate ability. Rumor has it that Lord Wu Shang is invincible once he uses his divine ability. However, it's said that every time Lord Wu Shang uses his innate ability, it consumes a lot of his energy. It is said that the last time he used his innate ability was when he was fighting with Lord Scarlet King. That immortal king of the 9 heavens 10 earths is truly terrifying. To actually force Lord Wu Shang to this extent. The foreign undying existences seemed to have seen the changes in Wu Shang's body. They all cried out in surprise, and at the same time, they were filled with anticipation. In the Battle of Immortal Ancient, the fundamental reason why Wu Shang gained a fierce reputation was also because of his heaven-defying innate ability, which allowed him to be immune to all damage. You are worthy of me taking you seriously. Wu Shang's voice was ice-cold, shattering the surrounding sea of laws. That sound wave seemed like it was going to destroy the world. Chu Bei was unmoved. His entire body was wrapped in a dense white light. The terrifying sound wave released by Wu Shang was annihilated by the dense white light before it even touched him. Kill! Wu Shang roared. The purple mist around his body became resplendent to the extreme, covering his entire body. Then, he used his most powerful killing move and pounced at Chu Bei. The most powerful attack plus immunity to his innate ability. This was his most powerful combination. Is this all you've got? Looking at Wu Shang, who was pouncing over, Chu Bei noticed the purple mist around the other party's body. He didn't forget to mock him. He raised his hand and waved it. In an instant, he appeared in front of Wu Shang and used his original body to punch out. Pun! A loud noise sounded. Chu Bei's fist and the purple mist interweaved together. Resplendent and dazzling radiance deprived the foreign cultivators and the experts of the 9 heavens 10 earths of their vision. They could only see an expanse of whiteness, unable to see anything. Impossible! However, before the rumbling sounds of the collision disappeared, Wu Shang's terrified voice sounded from heaven abyss. Immediately afterwards, following a trembling sound, an incomparably massive fist imprint appeared in the resplendent battlefield. Then, the dazzling radiance dissipated. When they saw the scene in heaven abyss again, the foreign cultivators, including the undying beings, were all stunned. They all seemed to have lost their voices, their faces full of shock as they looked at heaven abyss. The corners of their mouths were moving, but they couldn't make any sound. How could it be like this? Lord Wu Shang clearly already used his innate ability. What exactly is going on? It can even be immune to Lord Scarlet King's attacks, but why isn't it effective this time? Is that fella already terrifying enough to restrain Lord Wu Shang's innate ability? Finally, someone from the foreign cultivators spoke up, his voice carrying disbelief, full of restraining fear and fear. In heaven abyss, the purple mist around Wu Shang's body shattered, his body wrapped around by tens of thousands of cold white streaks of light. These streaks of light were currently crazily tearing apart his flesh and soul. If one followed these streaks of light, the source was actually Chu Bei's fist. You are clearly immune to all attacks, so why were you still able to injure me? Wu Shang seemed to be unable to move, his expression filled with incomparable pain, looking at Chu Bei with incomparable unwillingness. In front of absolute power, how can there be immunity? Chu Bei's lips carried a smile. After speaking, he pointed out again. With a honglong noise, endless streaks of light tore apart at the same time. Wu Shang's flesh and soul exploded, dissolving into the sea of natural laws. Defeated, Lord Wu Shan was defeated. After Lord Anlin and Lord Shucho, Lord Wu Shan was also killed by this person. Retreat, hurry and retreat. Report this matter to the other great ones. While looking at Wu Shan, who was torn into nothingness in Heaven Abyss, the foreign side's cultivators reacted, their faces revealing fear. Almost at the same time, the foreign undying existences gave Chu Bei, who stood in Heaven Abyss with his hands behind his back, a look of great fear, immediately giving the order to retreat. Chu Bei gave the withdrawing foreign great army an indifferent look, not paying them any attention, seriously sizing up this collapsed Heaven Abyss again. With his current strength, even though he could pierce through Heaven Abyss, it would take him a bit of time. We won again! With this, I fear that the other side won't dare rashly attack again. That's right. They've already lost 3 immortal kings. Even if their backing is deep, how many undying kings can they have? Many thanks to Senior for taking action. The 9 Heavens 10 Earth's cultivators, under Meng Tianjing's lead, immediately bowed deeply towards Chu Bei. All of you can rise, go back and accompany your families. With this one here, Imperial Pass won't be broken through. When Chu Bei's light voice sounded, the cultivators of the 9 Heavens 10 Earths gave each other a look, all of them revealing expressions of joy. In less than an hour, there were only a few people left outside Imperial Pass that were originally filled with cultivators. Senior Sure How? At this time, an Oriole-like voice drifted over from the city walls. Then, a blue-dressed young lady flew towards Chu Bei and Sure How. Principal Meng, why did you bring your precious granddaughter as well? When he saw the blue-dressed young lady, Sure How immediately felt a headache. Didn't she make a fuss about taking you on as her master? She threatened that if I didn't bring her over, she would cut her own throat for me to see. As such, I could only bring her over. Meng Tianjing shrugged, appearing extremely helpless. Senior Sure How, your respected self should just take me as your disciple. My talent is quite good, I definitely won't lose face for your respected self. The blue-dressed young lady looked at Sure How with incomparable sincerity, her large watery eyes full of expectation. Sure How immediately supported the blue-dressed young lady who was about to kneel, shaking his head and saying, Linger, I haven't finished learning myself yet, there are still many things I haven't figured out on my path of cultivation. So how can I take you on as my disciple? Senior Sure How, I beg your respected self. After being refused again, the blue-dressed young lady directly sat down on the ground, hugging Sure Hao's thigh. Linger, don't make things difficult for yourself. Our master and this girl have karma, so just take her under your tutelage. Right when Sure How opened his mouth to refuse again, before he even finished speaking, Chu Bei's voice sounded. Sure How was first stunned, and then he bowed towards Chu Bei. This disciple will sincerely obey Master's orders. Master above, please accept Linger's bow. Almost at the same time, the blue-dressed young lady knelt down in front of Sure How with incomparable excitement, carrying out the ceremony of taking him on as her master 3 times. When Sure How nodded in agreement, the blue-dressed young lady stroked her knees, and then looked towards Chu Bei. When she thought of her previous actions towards Chu Bei on the city wall, her face immediately flushed red. This grand disciple has offended Grandmaster before, please punish me. The ignorant are innocent, why would this one bicker with you? Chu Bei's words carried a smile, but it was Meng Tianjing who was on the side who was a bit stupefied, as if he was a monk who couldn't figure out what was going on. After Desolate Borders matters were settled, Chu Bei entered Imperial Pass under Meng Tianjing's invitation. The same day, in the skies above the continuous mountain range outside Imperial Pass, incomparably terrifying 9 heavens lightning descended. A figure faced the lightning, releasing terrifying aura fluctuations. The instant this aura broke through, it directly caught up to the veteran supreme beings Immortal Wang, Zhao Haotian, and Meng Tianjing. Sure How became a supreme being. Heavens! This is too crazy! As soon as Senior Chu descended, Sure How directly broke through, and this aura is actually not weaker than Principal Meng's in the slightest. I heard that Meng Linger entered Sure How Great One's tutelage. I really am envious of her. You all might not know that the reason Meng Ling could enter Sure How Great One's tutelage was all thanks to Senior Chu. Otherwise, Sure How Great One definitely wouldn't have accepted her. When Sure How Great One was at the self-release realm, he could already fight against normal Supreme Beings. Now that he truly entered the Supreme Being realm, with his innate divine abilities, wouldn't his strength already be above Principal Meng's? It is to the extent where he can even fight against true immortals? Even if this really is the case, it still isn't anything to be shocked about. He is but the personal disciple of that great one who killed 3 undying kings from the other side. In the skies above Emperor City, powerful figures appeared one after another. They looked in the direction of the continuous mountain range, revealing expressions of shock. Many thanks for Master's help. After Sure How stabilized his aura, he immediately flew up to Chu Bei, bowing deeply. The path of cultivation is endless. You must remember that every step has to be taken perfectly. Only like this can you walk further, reach the end of the path. Chu Bei patted Sure Hao's shoulder, saying this with heartfelt words. This disciple will carefully follow Master's instructions. Sure Hao looked pensive, his originally impatient heart calming down. Chapter 475. The next day. The cultivators in Imperial Pass were still immersed in the joy of victory. However, suddenly, the distant sky dome above desolate border battlefield trembled intensely. Then, a strange wing noise sounded, and then an expanse of mysterious, dazzling light appeared. Then, a streak of light directly descended from the dazzling light. Hong Long! At this moment, the collapsing heaven abyss seemed to have been ignited by this streak of light. In that instant, its sea of natural laws surged. Chi! The space above heaven abyss split apart, as if an immortal gate was opened. Dazzling brilliance shone, as if it was going to illuminate the past, present, and future. Immortal Tao power poured down, natural laws everywhere. A rain of ascension light poured down endlessly, descending from the highest point, covering heaven abyss. What is happening now? Could it be that the foreign side still isn't willing to give up? Are they trying to attack again? No, this is different from before. It isn't the foreign side's people. Regardless, we have to report to Principal Meng and Senior Chu first. While looking at the irregular scenes that suddenly appeared above heaven abyss, the patrolling cultivators on Imperial Pass walls were stunned, all of them stupefied. When they reacted, there were immediately people who flew into the city, extremely alarmed. Hurry and look! That's actually a gate. Could it be that it leads to some place? When Principal Meng comes, everything will be clear. Even if he doesn't know, Senior Chu will definitely know. While discussing, the gate above heaven abyss took form. Divine chains of order were concentrated within, numbering in the tens of thousands, surging with endless immortal light, releasing an intimidating aura. Those are immortal Tao domain natural laws! A veteran supreme being who was the closest arrived. After just a glance at the gate's immortal light, he revealed a look of shock. Xiao, Xiao, Xiao! After this veteran supreme being, there were several streaks of divine rainbows that appeared. Imperial City's supreme beings all came, among them Meng Tianjing, Immortal Wang, Zhao Haotian, and others. Principal, this is? A self-release realm cultivator asked. It is related to immortal domain. A long time later, Meng Tianjing took a deep breath, saying with furrowed brows. Elder Meng, the immortal domain you mentioned, what kind of place is that? Why have I never heard of it after tens of thousands of years? As long as it isn't the foreign side. When they heard the words immortal domain from Meng Tianjing's mouth, all cultivators below the self-release realm revealed looks of bewilderment. However, the powerful existences above the self-release realm all revealed expressions of shock. Buzz buzz. Without waiting for Meng Tianjing's reply, the gate above heaven abyss surged with layers of symbols. It was like a ceiling formation, landing in heaven abyss. It possessed sealing power, cutting through the 9 heavens, 10 earths, and the 4 inside. In just a few breaths of time, the sound of a sacrificial offering came from the array. The sea of laws surged, and several blurry phantoms actually appeared. They seemed to be building a city, but also seemed to be building a wall, sealing the center of heaven abyss. Gradually, the sound of worship faded away. The crowd of cultivators was shocked to find that the originally crumbling heaven abyss had solidified, as if it had turned into a solid wall that could not be crossed. Could it be that under this wave of mysterious power, heaven abyss truly separated us from the other side? A supreme being said. Then, he activated a Tao corroboration magical artifact, throwing it towards heaven abyss in a probing manner. In the past, their magical artifacts would directly enter the sea of laws, but this time, it was different. The magical artifacts fell as soon as they made contact with heaven abyss, stopped outside. Immortal Domain's highest law force, are they really helping us? Zhao Haotian's eyes were deep as he stared at heaven abyss, unable to see through what he was thinking. It really is sealed forever? Immortal Wang's brows furrowed tightly. Hurry and look, something else came out from the immortal gate! A self-release realm expert cried out in alarm. When they looked over, they saw a steel fly out from the immortal gate, both sides engraved with eye-catching immortal texts. The front side of the steel, heaven abyss is forever sealed, the foreign side cannot cross over for 1,000,000 years. Because this formation absorbs the power of the 9 heavens 10 earths, after 1,000,000 years, the 9 heavens 10 earths will also wither away and be destroyed. The back side of the steel, Immortal Domain's gate is about to open. This was an immortal steel, the front and back sides only a few dozen words, but it directly shocked everyone here. This is too great, heaven abyss is forever sealed, nothing will happen for 1,000,000 years. We don't have to worry about the foreign side invading anymore. A self-severing realm cultivator reacted, laughing happily. Shut up! A supreme being immediately berated. Even though it is peaceful now, after 1,000,000 years, the entire 9 heavens 10 earths will fall. The best situation is that in a cultivationless age, none of us can cultivate anymore. The worst situation is that the entire 9 heavens 10 earths will be directly destroyed at that time. Another supreme being spoke. What exactly are these immortal domain fellas doing? At the crucial moment, they didn't show themselves. Now, the danger has been neutralized by seniors, yet they are doing this. Immortal Wang frowned, his words carrying anger. Immortal Domain's actions were no different from drinking poison to quench thirst. Year after year passed. Even if there were no more foreign invasions, this world was still weakening, endlessly absorbed by the formation. After 1,000,000 years, the 9 heavens 10 earths would reach their end. Perhaps they could peacefully make it through their later years, but what about their descendants? Where should they go from here? This matter cannot be leaked out for now. Right when the supreme beings were resentful, Meng Tianjing said, Immortal Domain's gates are about to open, there will definitely be people from that side who will descend. At that time, we will discuss this matter with them. Senior, I wonder what your respected self's opinion is. Meng Tianjing turned around, looking towards Chu Bei, his expression incredibly respectful. Chu Bei chuckled. With a step, he already appeared above that sealing great formation in heaven abyss. He struck out with a palm, terrifying power surging from his palm, releasing a terrifying aura that could wipe out heaven and earth. Immediately afterwards, a great honglong noise rang out. The sealing great formation directly collapsed, turning into a rain of light and scattering. Then, that solid wall in heaven abyss disappeared without a trace, recovering its original appearance. Right at this time, that gate above heaven abyss exploded, resplendent and dazzling, as if brilliant fireworks erupted. Senior Yu! When they saw Chu Bei's actions, including Meng Tianjing, Immortal Wang, and the other supreme beings were instantly stunned, all of them entering a daze. Those cultivators at the self-release realm and below were immediately stupefied as well. They stared blankly at Chu Bei, their mouths wide open. Is this really that hard to decide? Could it be that you all want to see your homeland nibbled away at? You all only care about yourselves, not caring about your descendants? Chu Bei smiled as he looked at the Supreme Beings. Of course not. After the Supreme Beings decisively shook their heads, their brows furrowed. Only Senior's actions might incur Immortal Domain's dissatisfaction. Do you all feel like this one cares about Immortal Domain? Chu Bei's lips carried a smile. When they heard Chu Bei's words, the Supreme Beings exchanged a look. When they thought of the other party's strength, killing 3 undying kings in succession, even if it was an Immortal Domain, this was still an Overlord-level existence, right? Many thanks to Senior for taking action, protecting our homeland. When they thought of this, the Supreme Beings bowed towards Chu Bei again, their eyes carrying gratitude. At the same time, in a corner of Immortal Domain, Great One, the gate to the 9 heavens 10 earths has disappeared. A silver-haired elder spoke, his brows furrowed. The Great One the silver-haired elder spoke of was a purple-haired man who looked no more than 20-something years of age. His hands were behind his back, dressed in 10,000 beast robes, surrounded by terrifying immortal energy. What is going on? The purple-haired man's brows were tightly furrowed. It should be those old fellas who couldn't return and were contaminated, right? Before the silver-haired elder spoke, a woman dressed in a fiery red long dress walked over. Even though she didn't look that old, from the aura she released that wasn't weaker than the purple-haired man's, she was clearly an old fella who had lived for who knew how many years. It seems like we can only open another one. When the day of descent arrives, we'll properly investigate the one who destroyed the gate. The purple-haired man released a cold snort, his eyes narrowed, cold light flickering about. When his voice fell, the purple-haired man's body surged with immortal Tao light. His hands continuously interweaved, gathering immortal Tao light, producing it in the void. I wonder what kind of good seedlings the 9 heavens 10 earths will produce this time. I hope they don't disappoint me. The long-dressed woman had a faint smile on her face, her slender hands also producing immortal radiance, helping the purple-haired man establish a new gate. According to what this little one understands, there is a fella in the 9 heavens 10 earths named Shihao. His talent is extremely terrifying, moreover having the ability to fight above his level. This is especially the case with the divine ability he grasps, even more so incomparably strange. That old servant said respectfully. Shihao? Innate divine ability? A bit interesting, I'll remember this name. The purple-haired man's eyes narrowed. When the new gate forms, I'll take a look. If he really is to my liking, I'll bring him back to 10,000 Beast Palace. This time, there are quite a few fellas heading to the 9 heavens 10 earths. If you act too late, he might not necessarily be yours. The long-dressed woman said with a laugh. The third day. 9 heavens 10 earths, Imperial Pass, desolate border. Under strange rumbling sounds, the distant heavens above heaven abyss shone brilliantly, blurry gate void images appearing one after another. 1-1. Rumbling sounds rang out above heaven abyss. Thousands of gates appeared, several figures vaguely visible within each gate. All of you, hurry and look above! Immortal Domain's gates are opening again! The cultivators in Emperor City looked at the gates in the distant heavens, all of them stupefied, expressions of disbelief on their faces. Regarding Immortal Domain, very few people knew about it for a long time. Only when Heaven Abyss abnormalities happened did a Supreme Being speak of Immortal Domain's matters. News spread like wildfire, the speed extremely fast, spreading through the 9 heavens 10 earths in less than a day. More and more cultivators learned that above the 9 heavens 10 earths, there was a boundless immortal domain. There were true immortals there, true unmatched experts. It was the source of many inheritances, ancestral bloodlines. Immortal Domain was countless times larger than the 9 heavens 10 earths. Immortal Domain's gates are opening. Do we all have a chance of heading there? If we go there, wouldn't we no longer have to worry about foreign invasions? Moreover, it is rumored that Immortal Domain's spiritual essence is 10 times, 100 times richer than the 9 heavens 10 earths. Don't even think about it. Immortal Domain's gates opening is only for those people in Immortal Domain to choose disciples from our 9 heavens 10 earths, to choose the most powerful seeds. No wonder those established families have been making such great movements recently, not hesitating to use heavenly treasures to spoil things. They most likely all want their clan's juniors to catch the attention of those from Immortal Domain, thus basking in their glory. Countless cultivators in the 9 heavens 10 earths discussed spiritedly. Chapter 476. Hong Long. Another sky-shocking noise sounded through Imperial Pass. Only to see a gate above desolate borders city walls release brilliant radiance. 3 figures walked out from within, 2 elders and a black-clothed youngster. So this is the lower realm? It really is a land lacking in resources after all. It seems like this trip won't go smoothly. The black-clothed youngster lowered his head, eyes indifferently sweeping over Imperial Pass soldiers. He frowned, his expression a bit ugly. We came from Immortal Domain, young master, even more so personally descending. Why is there no one here to welcome us? Right now, where is your lower realm's most powerful individual? Hurry and have him welcome us on his knees. An elder at the black-clothed youngster's side shouted, his voice echoing through every corner of Imperial Pass, releasing a terrifying aura. This was a supreme being who already cultivated immortal Tao aura. Xiao, xiao, xiao. Several streaks of divine rainbows flew past. Meng Tianjing, Zhao Haotian, Immortal Wang and the others appeared, their brows tightly furrowed. Hong Long, Meng Tianjing and the others were just about to speak when the clouds in the distant sky roiled, divine radiance dazzling, thunder rumbling continuously. More figures walked out from the gates. 1, 2, 3, in just a few seconds, the 1,000 gates all opened. Close to 10,000 Immortal Domain experts floated in the sky, looking down. The 9-ly ceiling Great Formation has collapsed. Thousands upon thousands of Immortal Realm experts descended. First, they roughly sensed the density of the spiritual chi in the 9 heavens and 10 earths. When their gazes landed on heaven abyss below and sensed the dissipating aura of the formation runes, their expressions were as fascinating as they could be. It was as if they had seen a ghost. They were dumbfounded, and their mouths were opened so wide that a fist could be stuffed in. How is this possible? That is but a great formation personally refined by Immortal King Great One for several years. How did it shatter? Just what exactly happened? After recovering from their shock, Immortal Domain's experts looked towards Meng Tianjing, Immortal Wang and the others, questioning them. The foreign realm's danger has already been neutralized, we are temporarily fine. Even though Immortal King Great One's actions can help us resolve the foreign realm's problem in the short term, in the long term, this is extremely disadvantageous for us. Meng Tianjing raised his head towards the Immortal Domain experts in the sky dome above, his words extremely tactful. Brazen! How can you disobey the actions of the Lord Immortal King? Moreover, with your strength, not to mention destroying the 9 Dawn Ceiling Formation, you probably won't even be able to break open a corner of it. A supreme being of the celestial realm shouted, and his gaze of disdain didn't take Meng Tianjing seriously in the slightest. When they heard this, Meng Tianjing, Immortal Wang and the others frowned, but no one replied. Could it be that it was done by those existences in the Forbidden Zone? An immortal region old man frowned and guessed. I'm afraid they're the only ones who can do it. If that's the case, we can only report this matter to the Immortal King. Another old man said. Forget it, let's get down to business first. At this moment, a young man in a red robe among the experts of the Immortal Realm spoke up. The purpose of us descending to the lower realm this time is to select qualified seeds from your younger generation and bring them to the Immortal Realm for nurturing. If they are lucky enough, they can even become the followers of the Immortal King's descendants. The red-robed young man's voice was forceful, and the sound waves were accompanied by the aura of the Immortal Tao, spreading throughout the 9 heavens and 10 earths. In that instant, the 9 heavens 10 earths seemed to have erupted into commotion, discussing among themselves. Among them, there were a few people from ancient families who even revealed looks of anticipation. Which one of you knows of a fella named Sherhow? Suddenly, a calm voice drifted through the heavens. When they looked over, the one who spoke was a purple-haired male who looked to be less than 20-something years of age. His hands were behind his back, dressed in 10,000 beast robes, surrounded by terrifying immortal energy. At the purple-haired male's side stood a woman dressed in a fiery red long dress. The aura she released wasn't weaker than the purple-haired male's in the slightest. Hurry and look. Myriad Beast Palace Lord actually personally came. There's also Fairy Jade Wave. Speaking of which, who is the sure how he spoke of? For the Myriad Beast Palace Lord to specifically want him, his talent is definitely extremely terrifying, definitely a monster from the lower realm. When Immortal Domain's experts recognized the purple-haired male's identity, they all revealed looks of horror. It was clear that among these people from Immortal Domain, the purple-haired male's status was no small matter. Great One Sherhow? He actually took a fancy to Great One Sherhow. Great One Sherhow is Senior Chu's disciple. These people from Immortal Domain are so domineering, I fear that things won't end well. When they heard the purple-haired male's words, the cultivators of the 9 heavens 10 earths began to discuss quietly. Great One, the Sherhow you speak of already has a master. I fear that he cannot become your respected self's disciple. Meng Tianjing took a step forward, cupping his fists towards the purple-haired male with incomparable respect. The aura the other party released made him feel pressured, as if he was already at the true immortal realm. However, as soon as he finished speaking, the other party already casually detained a cultivator from Imperial Pass city walls. Speak, where is Sherhow? The purple-haired male's voice sunk, carrying a wave of dignity. When surrounded by terrifying pressure, that cultivator who was detained immediately revealed a look of fear, his body shivering. He hurriedly pointed towards the largest manor in Imperial Pass, saying with a trembling voice, Great One Sherhow is there. The purple-haired male released a cold snort. After throwing that cultivator back onto the city walls, he turned into a divine rainbow, instantly appearing in the skies above that manor. This style of doing things, truly worthy of being Myriad Beast Palace Lord. Simply too domineering. However, it does make sense. If those existences in the restricted region don't come out, there won't be a single immortal Dao expert in the lower realms. In the sky dome above, below the open gate, a group of Immortal Domain experts cast their eyes towards the purple-haired male. They were also extremely curious as to just what was so special about this Sherhow. Pun! However, right when close to 10,000 Immortal Domain experts heard the purple-haired male's undeniable order, looking forward to seeing Sherhow, a sky-shocking noise sounded from the distant skies. Immediately afterwards, a terrifying aura rippled outwards. This wave of aura made their souls tremble, instinctively feeling a type of fear. Immediately afterwards, in their line of sight, a giant hand moved through the sky, directly crushing Myriad Beast Palace Lord, directly and violently. This is Myriad Beast Palace Lord dead? He is a true immortal. There is an unmatched existence there. Restricted region, it is definitely a restricted region. Could it be that Sherhow is related to the restricted region's existence? When they saw this scene, the close to 10,000 foreign experts were stunned, their eyes staring blankly at the giant hand that hadn't disappeared yet. They all subconsciously swallowed their saliva, fear surging within their eyes, mysteriously breaking out into a cold shiver. All of this happened too suddenly, simply catching them off guard. From the moment Myriad Beast Palace Lord appeared in that manner, to when he spoke out, and then to when he was crushed to death by that giant hand, the entire process happened in the time it took for sparks to fly off a piece of flint. Immortal Domain's gates have opened. This one won't interfere with the objective of your trip, but if you set your sights on those related to this one, then don't blame this one for being ruthless. A calm voice drifted through the air. Even though the voice wasn't loud, it clearly sounded in the minds of all of Immortal Domain's experts, shaking their minds. Immortal! Immortal King! When they heard this voice, Immortal Domain's true immortals, including the long-dressed woman, gave each other a look. Their pupils suddenly contracted, looking at each other in dismay. Perhaps supreme beings couldn't sense the pressure from this voice, but they could clearly sense that this was specifically targeted at the immortal Tao force within their bodies. Moreover, to be able to instantly kill a true immortal with a raise of a hand, this was something only unmatched existences like immortal kings could do. Go, let's avoid this place for now. Let's search elsewhere. The group of immortal domain experts gave Emperor City another look with incomparable restraining fear. Then, they seemed to have come to the same decision, separately flying towards different directions in the 9 heavens 10 earths. Fortunately, there are seniors here, able to put a stop to their arrogance. Otherwise, this group of fellas from immortal domain, who knows how arrogant they would be? While looking at the distant immortal domain experts, a veteran supreme being released a cold snort, clearly extremely dissatisfied with the attitude of these immortal domain experts. These experts who descended from immortal domain left one after another extremely quickly. In less than an hour, they were already scattered to every corner of the 9 heavens 10 earths. In the following 2 days, the great families of the 9 heavens 10 earths entered a frenzy of marketing. All of the younger generations that were passable were pushed out, to the extent where they didn't hesitate to steal all types of heavenly materials and supreme treasures just to let those immortal domain people take a look. In the eyes of these family elders, as long as they were connected to immortal domain, even if it was just a tiny bit, their family would be able to soar. Only it was a pity that these immortal domain experts' conditions for selecting seeds were extremely harsh. Even though 2 days had already passed, the number of people they selected could be counted on 2 hands. The 3rd day. Close to 10,000 immortal domain experts were still busy, no one daring to step into Emperor City. It was also on this day that an old man woke up in an ancient land. He stood up while trembling as he looked towards a certain direction. Master, why did your respected self wake up? The one who spoke was a fatty named Chao Yuxing, precisely the little fatty who wanted to screw over Chu Bei 1,000 years ago, but was instead fiercely taught a lesson. Now, Chao Yuxing's cultivation, even though it wasn't as freakish as Shi Hao's, he still entered the self-severing realm, not far from the self-release realm. As for this elder who suddenly woke up, he was Chao Yuxing's master. He spent most of his time sleeping, not paying attention to worldly matters. However, just now, he was roused awake. Right now, Chao Yuxing looked at the elder with a heavy expression, his face full of confusion. Little fatty, the world is changing, there is going to be a huge problem. The elder suddenly sighed. His body looked extremely weak, as if a gust of wind could blow him over. Master, don't keep me in suspense. What world is changing? Isn't everything perfectly fine? Even the foreign realms problem was resolved after Boss Chu returned. When he heard the elder's words, Chao Yuxing's expression suddenly changed. Even though his master's strength wasn't all that great, he was psychic, able to deduce heaven's mysteries. However, even though there were some things he could see a corner of the future, he couldn't say it, couldn't do it. Once it was revealed, he would suffer endless calamities. The reason why he ended up like this was also related to the fact that he continuously revealed heaven's mysteries back then. Little fatty, when Master dies, burn me to ashes and scatter me into the sea. You must not establish any grave for me. The elder continuously coughed, extremely strenuous and slow. He looked in a certain direction, his face full of worry. Master, what is the meaning of your words? Don't scare me. When he heard the elder's words, Chao Yuxing's face turned pale, feeling like his master was giving him his last words. Could it be that this great world really was going to change? He didn't have much time left? Little fatty, what you know is still too little. Darkness is about to arrive, the 9 heavens 10 earths are about to be finished. The elder released a deep sigh. The great era of darkness has arrived, this world is about to end. The most terrifying great showdown has arrived ahead of time. These were the elder's final words. After saying this, he patted Chao Yuxing's shoulder, and then turned into a streak of flowing light, disappearing into the limits of the horizon. Master, you are going to die either way, so can't you reveal heaven's mysteries one more time? Let me understand a bit more. While looking in the direction the elder disappeared, Chao Yuxing roared out. Great era of darkness, what exactly is the meaning of this? No one replied for a long time. Chao Yuxing could only release a sigh. Then, a figure appeared in his mind, immediately flying towards desolate border. The fourth day. In the void, there were gray unknown streams of energy that smashed into the spatial barrier. Under the continuous bombardment, a crack appeared in the barrier, gray streams of energy starting to surge out. This crack was located in spirit realm of the 9 heavens 10 earths 3000 Tao provinces. Not long after these strands of gray streams of energy surged out, spirit realm underwent great changes. Ah! Then, the first strange miserable cry sounded, shaking up spirit realm. In the blink of an eye, in the region where the crack was located, the clear sky became dark, the peaceful aura turning into roiling baleful energy. Then, countless miserable cries sounded. Cultivators fell one after another, their souls scattered, devoured by the roiling baleful energy, disappearing without a trace. Before many cultivators could react, the black fog surged and enveloped the entire area. Shrill screams rose and fell one after another. In just a few seconds, that region surrounded by gray streams of energy became deathly still, not a single sound left. Only darkness continued to spread outwards. When spirit realm's most powerful powers learned of this, they immediately entered a state of panic. However, before they even had time to withdraw, this black mist already quickly spread to their borders. The same scene played out. Wherever the black mist passed, everything would become deathly still. Whether it was man or beast, they would all return to nothingness. Have you all heard? Spirit realm is gone. Didn't this just happen 2 hours ago? I don't even know what happened. It seems like it was devoured by a wave of unknown power. News of spirit realm's destruction quickly stirred up great waves. Every corner of the 3000 provinces was intensely discussing this matter. Hong Long! Suddenly, a heaven-shocking noise sounded from spirit realm's direction. Immediately afterwards, it was as if a black mist bomb was ignited. Endless black streams of energy crazily spread outwards, engulfing towards other regions. Right at this moment, the gates of hell were opened. You're tuning into the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.